When the college entrance exam scores came out, I got just 1 point, all because I accidentally wrote solution on my math paper. Mom went crazy, my sister went crazy, but I just smiled. In our past life, my sister used a score-swapping system to exchange our results. She got accepted to top universities with ease, while I, the valedictorian, ended up in vocational school and even got expelled. My younger sister tried to comfort me. Sis, factories are desperate for workers now. Tightening screws on the assembly line is actually a sweet gig. This time around, I slept through the entire college entrance exam. You wanted a change? Well, we're going all the way. Congratulations on activating the life swap system. Please select your exchange partner. My sister, Mia. What would you like to exchange with her? Gaokao scores. Standing outside the door, I wasn't the least bit surprised to hear my own name inside. My dear sister Molly was overjoyed at the prospect of using the system to swap her college entrance exam scores with mine. After all, I'd aced every single exam throughout high school, reigning as the undisputed top student. During senior year, I consistently scored over 700 in citywide mock exams. I was the only one who could solve all the major math and science problems. My classmates at school are no longer my competition. My goal is to get into the best programs at Tsinghua or Peking University. As for my sister Molly, she's just not cut out for studying. Sometimes her total score for all 7 subjects doesn't even match what I get in just one. Mom is really worried about her grades and asked me to tutor her. I've spent a huge amount of time tutoring my sister, even sacrificing my own study time to make error worksheets for her and buying her snacks and cute dresses as incentives. But it's all been largely ineffective. She couldn't handle the grind of studying. After just a short while she'd start complaining about being tired, coaxing me with sweet pleas to let her off the hook. My little sister kept asking me, Mia, isn't there some easy way I could score as high as you on the Gaokao without actually studying? Back then I laughed at her pipe dreams, never expecting some system would actually descend from the heavens and grant her wish. In our previous life, she bound herself to a life exchange system and swapped away my Gaokao scores. Her 723-point score instantly made her the city's top scorer. Not only did she receive school and municipal scholarships and make local headlines, but she also had Tsinghua and Peking University admissions officers fighting over her. Meanwhile, I ended up with her score of 213 points, a stellar result for her. But for me, it felt like my world was collapsing. I scoured through the admissions guide, only to find I could only get into a vocational school in the remote suburbs. My alma mater, which had always held me up as a shining example, expelled me from the school registry because my grades were too low. My mother was too ashamed to even mention me in front of relatives and friends, and at home, she never gave me a kind look. Overnight, I went from being the child every parent praised to a laughingstock that everyone scorned. Some people even went to the principal to report me, suspecting that my grades for the past 3 years had all been faked. The day the school faculty launched a full investigation into my high school transcripts, I jumped from the top floor of the school building. After I died, the school saw me as a stain on their reputation and immediately expunged my records. Even my mother was so ashamed of me that she started telling everyone she only had one daughter, Molly, now that I've been reborn. I realized Molly and that sinister system were behind everything, but the system had its conditions. It asked Molly, what are you willing to sacrifice for this exchange? I'll sacrifice 10 years of my life. Molly's voice trembled with excitement. Standing outside the door, I let out a soft chuckle. Well, little sister, since you're willing to trade a decade of your life for my exam results, I'll just have to ace this test for you. I was watching videos in my room when someone knocked on my door. Molly poked her head in and stuck out her tongue playfully at me. Mia, are you studying? Mom asked me to bring you some fruit. She set the fruit plate on the desk, only to find I wasn't reading at all. She panicked and started yelling at me. Sis, the college entrance exam is in 2 weeks. How can you still be watching variety shows? I took off my headphones and shot back. Got a problem with that? Molly forced a smile. Of course it's fine. Studying should always be balanced with breaks. But sis, you need to stay clear-headed. Don't let these things cloud your judgment. Her expression was absolutely grim. Bringing me fruit was just an excuse to keep an eye on me. She's practically trading 10 years of her life for my college entrance exam results. Of course she needs to make sure I do well. Sis, just watch for a little while and then get back to studying. I'm worried Mom will scold you if she finds out. I paid her no mind, and she left with her head down. Not long after Molly left, Mom came into my room. She sighed, her tone carrying a hint of reproach. Molly was just showing concern for you. As her older sister, why be so harsh with her? I was completely baffled. Mean? When was I ever mean to her? Thinking back to what just happened, I had only said 3 words to her. My mother quickly waved her hand. Never mind, just forget I said anything. Seeing me watching videos, she couldn't help nagging. Look at the time. And you're still watching this nonsense. Turn it off right now. If you have time to watch videos, surely you can spare some to tutor Molly. Are her grades not important? When I stayed silent, my mom snatched my tablet right out of my hands. Why are you being so difficult? I'm talking to you, and you're just ignoring me. Listen, even though Molly isn't your biological sister, we're still family, and let's be honest, our family owes her. You have to help her. Do I owe her? Am I obligated to help her? I've never seen it that way. Molly is the daughter of my late father's close friend. My father was driving Molly's parents on the highway when they got into a crash. All three of them died. My mother adopted Molly, and she always felt that our family was responsible for the tragedy that befell Molly's family. Out of guilt, my mother indulged Molly's every whim, sometimes treating her even better than me. Her own biological daughter, my mother would always say. Our family is to blame for what happened to Molly. We have to make it up to her. In my past life, I was brainwashed by my mother's perspective and also believed that I should treat Molly as my own sister. At school, I always had her back. If anyone spoke a single word against her, I'd roll up my sleeves ready to throw down. At home, I gave her all the best things. If she took a liking to my new clothes, I'd hand them over without a second thought. I thought these gestures would make her feel the warmth of family, but now I see our relationship mirrors the fables of the farmer and the snake, or Dongwa and the wolf, where kindness is repaid with betrayal. Mom, I make time to tutor her every day, but she just doesn't want to learn. Who can study in her place? My mother frowned. That's not the point, even if she's reluctant. If you use the right approach, she'll eventually get into it. My mother gave me a pat on the back. Stop watching videos and go help your sister. I should have realized it sooner. My mother's favoritism toward Molly has long crossed into unhealthy territory. Before we knew it, the day of the college entrance exam had arrived. Early that morning, Molly came to wake me up and checked all my documents, even verifying 3 times whether my spare pencil leads were fully stocked. My mom was deeply moved by this. Mia, your sister is so good to you. She hasn't even packed her own things yet. Her heart is completely devoted to you. Her big sister, Molly, lowered her head. Her cheeks flushed. Mom, I'm just doing what I should. With grades this good, sis is bound to ace the exam. Her words moved my mother to tears, who then showered her with hugs and kisses. You're so wonderful, Molly. You're my pride too. Molly demurred. Mom, I'm not that great, at least not compared to Mia. My grades are terrible, unlike hers. She's always top of the class. My mom hugged her and patted her head. Oh, Mia's just a bit better at school, that's all. In every other way, she falls short of you. You're so kind and thoughtful, like a warm hug. Sometimes I really feel you're more like my own daughter. After being my mom's actual daughter for over a decade, I ended up less cherished than a stand-in. I shook my head with a wry smile, turned around, and headed out to enter the exam hall. Molly's voice came from behind me. Mia, you've absolutely got to ace this exam. Of course I'll do my best. It's for my dear sister, Dash. In the exam hall, I let out a huge yawn and then, to everyone's astonishment, laid my head on the desk and fell asleep. I've been staying up too late binge-watching variety shows lately, and I'm absolutely exhausted. In my past life, I was so focused on getting good grades that I didn't even watch TV, let alone variety shows. During my teenage years when most kids just want to have fun, I forced myself to become a study machine. I wanted to make my mom proud and be the kind of daughter she could proudly show off. In the end, all my hard work just paved the way for someone else's success. This time around, I'm letting my true self run wild. I've got to say, this feeling is absolutely liberating. I was jolted awake mid-nap by the proctor shaking me. She whispered with a worried expression, "This is the National College Entrance Exam venue." Classmate, I nodded to show I understood. Seeing I still showed no intention to start writing, she gently reminded me again, "At least write something down, besides your name and exam number." I heeded her words, sat up, and opened the test booklet. It happened to be a math exam, so I solemnly wrote the word solution for the major problems. After writing that, I got drowsy again and immediately fell back asleep. I heard the proctor sigh, and the sharp intake of breath from other test takers in the room. Dash. On the day the results came out, Molly was way more nervous than I was. Ever since the exam ended, she'd been trying to find out how I did, even going so far as to ask my homeroom teacher about my estimated score. She breathed a huge sigh of relief after hearing my estimated score was 700, but the most important thing is still today, she didn't even want to check her own score, just sat diagonally behind me waiting to see my results. I asked her, "Molly, how did you do on the exam?" She said, "Not bad." I wrote something for every question. I nodded and said, "That's good." The better she did on the exam, the higher my score would be. At exactly 12 o'clock, I entered my exam registration number. Molly shot up from her chair in shock when the grade appeared on the computer screen. 1 point. You only scored 1 point. I chuckled at that lonely single point. So writing the solution actually earned me points. Wrong. All wrong. How could you possibly get just 1 point? Molly jumped up. On the verge of a breakdown, she paced back and forth, clutching her hair tightly, unwillingly scrutinizing my grade over and over. No matter how she looked at it, it was just a solitary number 1. My mom was also shocked and stammered, "Mia, did you really get this score?" I nodded. "Well, always being top of the class, I thought I'd see what it feels like to be at the bottom for a change." "Mia, have you lost your mind?" Molly couldn't help shouting at me. "This is the Gaokao. The exam that determines your entire future. You estimated you'd get 700. What's with this 1-point score?" Her outburst even startled my mother. It was the first time my mother had seen Molly so hysterical. With her mask completely off, I raised an eyebrow and asked her, "I never told anyone my estimated score. How did you know?" Mia was caught off guard. She opened her mouth, stammering I for a long while but couldn't get a word out. Just then, my mother suddenly pointed at Molly's face and let out a cry. "Oh my God, Molly, your face, your face." Molly immediately covered her face. "What's wrong with my face?" She dashed into the bathroom like a whirlwind. Moments later, an ear-splitting shriek erupted from the bathroom. At the same time, the score on my computer quietly changed. The swap was complete. On the computer screen, my score changed to 213. Molly burst out of the bathroom. Her facial skin had gone slack, with age spots speckling her cheeks and 2 new creases appearing on her neck. She'd aged 10 years in an instant, transformed from 18 to 28. Just then, Molly's phone buzzed with a notification. My mom took one look and was utterly shocked. "Molly, how did you also get a 1? Upon hearing this, Molly snatched the phone away. I corrected my mom. "Mom, I didn't get a 1, I scored over 200. My mom leaned in to look at the computer screen and saw my score jump from 1 to 213. She rubbed her eyes in disbelief and said, "What on earth happened?" I shrugged and said, "No idea, maybe the system glitched." "Oh my God," Molly suddenly screamed and slammed her phone onto the ground. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she glared at me as if she wanted to tear me apart. "Mia, you set me up. You're going to be the death of me." I blinked innocently. "Molly, what are you talking about? I don't understand." Molly pointed at me, her hand trembling with rage. But since she couldn't admit to changing the scores, she had to swallow her anger and suffer in silence. "I won't let you get away with this." Molly stormed out of the house after her threat, her 28-year-old face flushed with fury. "Molly." My mom was frantic, chasing after her and calling her name. My mom couldn't catch up with Molly, so she turned around and blamed me instead. "What did you do to Molly? How did she end up like that all of a sudden?" She didn't even care that I scored just over 200 points, and kept urging me, "Go check on your sister right now. If anything happens to her, I won't be able to go on living." After swapping scores with Molly, I became the laughingstock of the whole school. On the day I returned to school, my teacher sighed and shook their head in disappointment, while my classmates whispered among themselves, laughing at me behind my back. "Mia always acts so high and mighty, looking down on everyone. Well, look at her now. She got too full of herself and ended up with just over 200 points on the exam. She went from top of the class to the bottom of the barrel. How can she still call herself a top student? Did she trick us all this whole time? Do you think there was something off about her previous scores? Even on a bad day, you don't just drop 500 points out of nowhere." Just like in my previous life, a storm of rumors came crashing down on me, but this time, I was fully prepared for it. The principal sighed repeatedly in front of me, saying they had received numerous reports from fellow students alleging that my high school grades were falsified and demanding to review my exam papers. I shrugged, unfazed. "Go ahead and check." The results came back clean, no issues whatsoever. There were several practice exams where even the teachers couldn't solve the final problem, but I cracked it every time. That's not something you can fake, but honestly, that outcome just makes it even harder to swallow. The principal slapped his thigh in frustration. "Molly, what on earth were you thinking during the college entrance exam? I contacted the proctor at your testing center. She said you weren't even properly answering questions, just sleeping through the exam. Have you lost your mind? This is the Gaokao we're talking about. When you throw away your future like this, no one can help you." As I left the principal's office, I saw my favorite homeroom teacher walking away, shaking her head with a sigh. He wouldn't even spare 2 words for me. Fair enough, I've let him down completely. When I got home, Mom kept laying into me non-stop. Through her tears she sobbed, "You're the one to blame for Molly only scoring 1 point. If you had put in a little more effort with her, she wouldn't have scored so poorly. Your poor performance on the college entrance exam is divine retribution. You had it coming." Molly had been staying away from home for days out of spite, and my mom blamed it all on me. I took out the admissions brochure, hoping to go over college applications with her. She slapped the handbook out of my hand. "Your sister is missing. And you're still worried about your college applications. Do you even have a heart?" I picked up the handbook expressionlessly. "Mom, she's not missing. She just posted on social media. She's just putting on a brave face because she doesn't want us to worry." "Mia, how can you be so heartless? That's your sister. How can you not care about her at all?" My mother pointed toward the door and gave me an ultimatum. "Go find her right now. If you don't bring her back, Don't you dare come home either. I stared at the torrential rain outside, then glanced back at Molly's picture-perfect life on social media. Fine, I'll go look for her. I got caught in a downpour and, unsurprisingly, came down with an illness. This illness was so severe that I even missed the deadline for submitting my college applications. My mom was upset I hadn't brought anyone home, so she refused to take care of me and went out herself to look for someone. My good friend Iris came to see me at home, and when she saw how feverish and weak I was, her heart broke and tears streamed down her face. What are you going to do now, Mia? You can't even get into vocational school. Once the application system closes, not even God himself could reopen it. While I was burning up with fever and passed out, no one even bothered to remind me about something as important as submitting my applications. I forced a smile. Who said anything about me going to vocational school? Why should I have to settle for that school just because Molly scored so poorly on her exams? Iris looked puzzled, but after I whispered a few words in her ear, her eyes instantly lit up. Yes, this is so much better than going to vocational school. At the same time, she dropped a bombshell on me. Molly has become famous. She's gone viral online. All because of that 1-point exam score? With authorities banning media interviews with top scorers this year, journalists were scrambling for stories, until they heard about the student at our school who scored exactly 1 point. 0 scores on college entrance exams are common, high scores are common, but hitting exactly 1 point, that's something you don't see every day. They immediately grabbed their gear and tracked down Molly. Molly was initially reluctant to be on camera, but then unexpectedly agreed to the interview. When the reporter asked how she managed to score that single point, Molly looked down with a chuckle. I never thought just writing solution would actually earn me credit. The seemingly ditzy high school girl, with her flustered and camera-shy demeanor combined with the gimmick of scoring just 1 point, became an instant attention grabber. This very scene was uploaded to Douyin and instantly went viral. In less than half a day, the views skyrocketed past 10 million. Netizens initially refused to believe she'd only scored 1 point, thinking it was just a publicity stunt. Molly immediately set up social media accounts across all major platforms and posted her score report online. The caption read, "No kidding, I really got 1 point." Netizens were amused to see someone actually scored 1 point. Molly then posted another video, pouting at the camera with a hint of grievance. "I actually tried really hard. I answered every single multiple choice question. Who knew I'd end up with just 1 point, but this just goes to show that writing solution actually earns you points on math problems. I recommend everyone start each major problem with solution. It's an easy way to pick up extra points." Filled the entire exam booklet and still scored just 1 point. Now that's a legendary level of talent. Soon enough, all sorts of Molly-related memes started circulating. Hashtag I never thought I'd score a single point hashtag. Hashtag someone actually managed to dodge all the right answers. Hashtag Gaogao's lowest scorer teaches you how to earn points. Hashtag in just 3 days, Molly gained hundreds of thousands of followers across all platforms. She crafted her persona as a sweet but clueless high school graduate who tries hard but gets nowhere, leveraging the gimmick of scoring just 1 point on the national college entrance exam. She skyrocketed in popularity, and combined with her striking looks, earned the nickname the 1-point goddess. After showing me Molly's account, Iris was really concerned about how I was taking it. "Mia, Molly doesn't even need to go to college anymore. With this fan base, she's set for life financially. Who would have thought scoring just 1 point would turn out to be such a blessing?" Just as we were talking, a new notification popped up. Donghu Private University plans to invite the 1-point goddess to enroll. Full scholarship, direct admission. Iris broke down. "This is insane. Why would East Lake University offer her a full scholarship?" I couldn't help but laugh. While others were in the dark, I knew the truth. Molly returned home, radiating pride and glory. She's now a viral sensation on Douyin, and her college admission is practically guaranteed. Just waiting for that acceptance letter to arrive. My mom was beaming with pride, her eyes crinkling into slits as she told everyone about her wonderful daughter. As for me, I'd long been left in the shadows. When acceptance letters were about to be released, my mom threw Molly an extravagant college celebration banquet at the city's finest hotel. The guests included not only family and friends, but also teachers and classmates from school. Molly has become something of a legend at school, with younger students coming up to her and even asking for her autograph. Just before the banquet was about to begin at noon, Molly waved me over and called me into the restroom. "Mia, make sure you keep all these things safe for me." She gestured toward the dazzling array of cosmetics on the bathroom vanity and said, after swapping scores with me, her face now appeared to be that of a 28-year-old, to maintain a youthful and radiant look. She had no choice but to slather on layers of makeup with desperate determination, watching me obediently tidy up for her. Molly sneered. "Mia, look at you now. What a pitiful sight. Your proud academic achievements are gone. Your dream of a top university is shattered. And look at this college celebration banquet your mom threw for me today. It must have cost your family's entire savings. You've got absolutely nothing left." I paused what I was doing, looked up with a smile, and said, "What about you? How much do you have left?" Molly's face changed. "What do you mean?" Those hundreds of thousands of followers, you traded for them too, didn't you? I remember when you were hanging out at the bars, you met that big influencer. Lately, I've seen her follower count plummet, and all those fans ended up with you, right? Molly's face turned pale, and she stopped applying the blush in her hand. I continued, and where did you get the acceptance letter from Domhu Private School? I bet it cost you quite a bit, didn't it? Molly narrowed her eyes and asked me in a hushed tone, how did you find out? Of course I knew, because I had made thorough preparations from the very first day I came back to this life. This included planting a small listening device in her room. I knew everything, her conversations with the system, the things she traded. Seeing my knowing smile, Molly forced a hollow, tight-lipped grin in return. Mia, you're so clever. But do you know what I'm going to take from you? The one thing that matters most. I furrowed my brow. What is it? Molly's smile widened. I'm going to steal your identity and take everything you have. The college acceptance celebration officially began. On stage, the host stood between my mother and Molly, recounting the touching bond between mother and daughter. My mother said through tears, the proudest moment of my life was giving birth to a wonderful daughter like Molly. Suddenly, it hit me. Molly was trying to steal my own daughter's identity. She's trying to take my place as my mother's daughter. Molly on stage also burst into tears. Mom, you'll always be the mother I love most. The two embraced as thunderous applause erupted from the audience. It seemed everyone had forgotten that I'm my mother's real daughter. Hey everyone, I'm going live to take you all to the super popular One Cent Goddess Molly's college acceptance party. Don't forget to hit that follow button and smash the like. A streamer was pointing her phone right at Molly, and I recognized her. She's the influencer whose follower count Molly swapped with. Because Molly's been blowing up lately, the streamer's live room suddenly got flooded with viewers, and her follower count started skyrocketing. I noticed that every time the streamer gained followers, Molly was steadily losing hers. Looks like there's still a chance to reclaim what was taken from us. On stage, Molly suddenly raised her microphone and said, I owe my success today to my sister Mia, even though she only scored around 200 on her college entrance exam due to nerves, missed the application deadline, and currently has no university to attend. She'll always be the best sister I could ask for. Mia, come up and say a few words. Your most respected teachers and favorite classmates are all here. Suddenly, every pair of eyes in the banquet hall was fixed on me. The live-streaming influencer even shifted their camera focus directly onto me. Molly was trying to embarrass me, but I refused to give her the satisfaction. Hey, why don't you tell everyone how you managed to drop from 700 to barely over 200 points? The school invested so many resources in you, and your homeroom teacher even neglected their own child to tutor you. What do you have to say to them after such disappointing results? Oh, and let's not forget Mom. She's pinned all her hopes on you. Do you really think you've lived up to her expectations? Molly's 3 questions instantly silenced the banquet hall. With a smug smile, she pushed me onto the execution platform, leaving me exposed to everyone's judgment. My classmates in the audience looked at me with disgust. The homeroom teacher turned away, and even my mother pursed her lips and refused to meet my eyes. I took the microphone from Molly, cleared my throat, and asked, what about you? Come Molly, you've been living off our family for years, eating our food and staying in our home, and then you stab us in the back. How could you do this to us? When I used her real name, Molly's eyes widened in shock. What are you talking about? When did I ever stab you in the back? Stop making baseless accusations. I took out my phone and started reading. October 1st, I'm so annoyed today. That old hag kept nagging me to study harder. Study, study, study. What's the damn point? I'm not even her real daughter. Why does she care so much? When will that chatterbox finally shut up? November 9th, the old hag had her daughter tutor me. I pretended not to understand and made her daughter explain one problem for 2 whole hours. Then the old hag blamed her daughter for being incompetent. What a bunch of idiots. The old hag apologized to me in tears again, saying she's sorry to my parents and that she'll treat me like her own daughter. Who'd want a dumb mother like her? It's just ridiculous. I set down my phone with a faint smile. These were all posted on your private social media account. Did you really think we wouldn't find out? But remember, walls have ears. My mother treated you like her own daughter. She never stinted on providing for you all these years. This celebration for your academic success was even funded from her retirement savings. Is this how you repay her? My words caused an uproar among the guests. And the influencer's live stream broadcast everything in real time. In the live stream chat, countless netizens began slamming Molly. Seriously, with such poor character, how dare she call herself a goddess? What's there to boast about scoring just 1 point? How did someone like this even become famous? That family treated her so well, like their own daughter, and she doesn't even understand basic gratitude. Two-faced behavior. How repulsive, while Molly was rapidly losing followers. The influencer's fanbase started bouncing back at an astonishing rate. Overjoyed by the momentum, she seized the moment and shouted from the crowd to amplify the buzz. I can vouch for Mia. Molly always said exactly that when we hung out together. You treat her like family, but she doesn't even see you as human beings. My mother in the audience seemed dazed for a moment, as if she was gradually coming to her senses. Molly, is everything your sister just read out true? Molly became frantic. It's all lies. She made it all up. Mom, who are you going to believe, her or me? Seeing my mother hesitate again, I walked over and used her phone to call Molly. Molly's phone screen lit up, showing the contact name Old Hag. Then I called Molly from my own phone. Her contact name for me was Old Hag's bitch daughter. My mother shuddered violently and grabbed my arm tightly. Mia, you're my real daughter, aren't you? Coming through. Make way. The courier's here with the admission letter. The hotel manager came running upstairs from the first floor, beaming with joy. Still unaware of what had happened, he excitedly said to us, I just saw the delivery guy outside with admission letters, and when I spotted Eastlake University's name on one, I immediately called him over. Molly, your college acceptance letter has arrived. Hearing that her acceptance letter had come, a hint of color returned to Molly's pale face. Eastlake University is different from your typical college. It's called a university, but its students aren't your typical high school graduates. They're top-tier talents who missed out on college for various reasons. They may lack formal degrees, but they bring experience and wealth to the table. With these connections, you've already got one foot in the door of high society. That's why being a student at Donghu University carries more weight than attending a standard top-tier Chinese university. This was Molly's last resort. She snatched the admission letter from the courier and waved it triumphantly in my face. What's the point of all this, Mia? Exposing me will only hurt your mother more. It serves no other purpose. See, our fates are already sealed. I'll be starting at Donghu University in September. What about you? I shrugged. I'm starting school in September too, you know. Molly laughed. Don't lie to yourself while trying to fool others. School. I saw with my own eyes your college application portal was completely blank. What exactly are you planning to use to get into school? My acceptance letter. Of course, that's how it usually works. I looked at Molly as if she were a complete fool. Should be any day now. The tracking shows the package is already in the area. Molly didn't want to believe it, but she was afraid I might actually get to go to school. She snatched the courier's bag, dumped all the letters on the ground, and started frantically searching through them one by one. The delivery guy snapped, Hey, whose package are you looking for? Molly glared at him and demanded, Is there one for Mia? Mia. The courier thought for a moment. Yeah, but it's not on the ground. I've got it on me, he chuckled. Since it's all in English and I couldn't understand it, I made sure to keep it in my little bag. Molly impatiently snatched the English letter from his hand, although she didn't understand much English. The envelope lacked any school logo, making it clear this wasn't an acceptance letter. She laughed, still pretending, Mia, this isn't an acceptance letter at all. Who knows what kind of worthless document you're using to fool people? I nodded, right. Of course this isn't an acceptance letter. This is my student visa. My acceptance letter was submitted to the embassy long ago. The moment I finished speaking, Molly froze. I took the letter back from her, opened it, and pointed at the official seal. You might not understand all the English, but surely you can recognize the Chinese embassy seal here. I was awarded a full scholarship to Oxford a while ago, and have just been waiting for the paperwork to be finalized. You can think of today's celebration as being for me too. Molly froze in place, pointing at me but completely speechless. You. Then why did you even take the college entrance exam? I leaned closer and whispered in her ear, Silly girl. It's only because you wanted to swap scores with me, so I went to the Gaokao exam hall just for you, and scored 1 point. Molly fainted. I made her so mad she passed out. After she was taken to the hospital for a checkup, the doctor was utterly shocked. Even though she's only 18, her physical condition is that of someone in their 40s or 50s. But this time, my mom didn't bother with any of that. She rushed back from the hospital to the hotel to continue the college celebration banquet. Only this time, I was the guest of honor. Mia, how could you keep something this important from your own mother? My mom was laughing and crying at the same time, stroking my hair and then squeezing my hand tightly. This time, I finally saw the love she once had for me in her eyes. Mom, I just wanted to surprise you. Surprise, more like a shock. Though her words were full of reproach, her expression was nothing but tenderness. I was wrong, Mia. All these years I've been so focused on making things up to Molly Kong that I neglected your feelings. Can you ever forgive me? Molly's last name wasn't originally Lin, it's Kong. Even though her parents passed away, she has other relatives who could have taken her in, yet she specifically chose my mother, crying about being an orphan when Mom visited her parents' grave. My mother has such a soft heart that she took her back home, Mom. About the car accident, it wasn't Dad's fault, and it wasn't yours either. The blame lies with the drunk driver, so please stop tormenting yourself over this. You don't owe Kong Molly anything, and neither does our family. Hearing this, my mother burst into tears, held me tight, and nodded emphatically. Getting accepted into Oxford completely turned my reputation around. The principal came over with a drink, smiling warmly as he started a conversation with me. Now Mia, that wasn't very thoughtful of you. You've already got one foot in a world-class university, yet you still took the Gaokao. You had all our teachers on edge. I gave a light laugh. It would have been a shame not to take it after all that preparation, so I went ahead. But I was so exhausted during the exam that I dozed off without even realizing. The principal patted me on the shoulder and said, "Sleep if you need to, your health comes first. Come on, let's take a photo together. I'll have someone quickly prepare a celebratory banner for you, and we'll hang it at the school entrance this afternoon." My college acceptance celebration was both grand and perfect. Yet many people couldn't understand why I hadn't mentioned earlier that I'd already received an acceptance letter from Oxford, because only I knew that if I'd spoken up too soon, Molly would have replaced me. My return from the dead is a secret. When I saw Molly again, she was already quite frail, lying there on the white hospital sheets. She looked like a little old woman at first glance. She smiled when she saw me arrive. "Mia, did you come here to laugh at me?" I picked up an apple and began peeling it slowly. She snorted coldly. "I heard you've been preparing applications for prestigious foreign universities since last semester. You kept it hidden for so long, and now you finally reveal it. Aren't you afraid I'll compete with you for the spot?" I took a crisp bite of the peeled apple. "You can't make any more swaps. I've known the secret of the exchange system all along. If you fail 3 exchanges, the system will vanish. But you'll have to immediately pay the full lifespan cost you offered. I traded 1 point for your 200, you gave more for less. That's your first failure. You swapped for the influencer's followers, but she took them back. That's the second. I made my mom see reason so she wouldn't truly accept you as her daughter. Your exchange failed. That's the third strike." Molly shook her head. "Seems you know everything about me, but you got one thing wrong. Swapping identities with you is actually the first failure. I gained the identity swap system shortly after entering your home, but each swap would cost me my life. I was too scared to use it. It wasn't until later, when I saw how wonderfully your mother treated you. She was kind to me too, but I wasn't her real daughter. I thought, if only I could trade places with you and become her biological daughter." I was stunned. It turns out her exchange had started years ago. But she never succeeded. All these years, even though your mom has been treating me better and you worse, she's always held one line in her heart: you will always be her daughter. Mia, do you know what I envy most about you? It's not that you always come in first on exams, but that you have a mother who loves you so much. You win, I'll pay my dues. When leaving the hospital, I casually left behind a peeled apple. In September, I boarded a flight to the UK. My high school still displays a giant photo of me with the principal at the entrance. The banner celebrating my acceptance to Oxford still hangs above the school gates. All the doubts and ridicule eventually turned into praise and admiration, and my mother, after raising me all on her own, finally has a life of her own. She signed up for a senior travel group and started touring the country with her girlfriends. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life. Story 2. My mother worked as a nanny for the wealthiest family in town. She deliberately took labor-inducing medication to give birth at the same time as the billionaire's wife. After delivery, with her last ounce of strength, she made me promise to swap her baby boy with the billionaire's heir. I nodded in agreement, but simply wiped away the birthmark she'd left on my brother before placing him back where he belonged. When Mom woke up, she initially beamed at the child's fair wrists before recoiling in disgust and shoving him aside. "Soon my son will inherit the tycoon's fortune. My golden days are coming." I sneered inwardly. How utterly mistaken she was. My younger brother wept nearby, yet Mom couldn't even spare him a glance. Humming cheerfully, she unexpectedly handed me a crumpled 5 yuan bill. "You did well. Go buy yourself an ice pop." As I stepped out with the money, I passed the VIP lounge where the town's wealthiest woman cradled her child with serene tenderness, a stark contrast to my own mother. In my past life, my mother had also ordered me to swap my brother with the Lin family's young master. I didn't dare. The moment she woke up, she'd call me worthless and beat me black and blue every single day. My brother grew up spoiled rotten by her, indulging in every vice from drinking to whoring to gambling. When the debt collectors showed up at our door, they simply took me as payment. My mother fumed at my brother. "If it weren't for your useless sister, you'd be living like a billionaire's heir by now." My brother was utterly convinced that he'd stab me to death and dismember me right after I repaid my debts. To my shock, when I opened my eyes again, I'd traveled back to the moment of my mother's childbirth. This time, I secretly swapped my brother and dodged my mother's brutal beatings. Harm set, harm get. I refused to be an accomplice to evil. When I returned with ice pops, Mom was already gone from the ward, leaving only my little brother wailing his heart out. His cries had been clear and bright when I left, but now they were hoarse and broken. Anyone could tell Mom hadn't even tried to comfort him. Soon after, I heard cheerful chatter outside. Stepping out, I saw Mom cradling Mrs. Eleanor's baby, beaming from ear to ear. What a well-behaved child, always smiling at me, unlike my sickly little monkey who cried the moment he was born. Lady Eleanor gently advised, all babies cry, you know, you really ought to be more attentive. My mother gave an absent-minded hum, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Indeed, I shall devote even greater care to you and the young master from now on. After learning Lady Eleanor was carrying a boy, my mother spent a fortune to confirm the unborn child's gender. She even took harmful labor-inducing drugs just to deliver on the same day as Lady Eleanor. Her mind was now consumed by delusions of becoming the birth mother of the Lynn family heir, completely indifferent to her brother's fate. I looked down at my limbs. The phantom pain from being dismembered in my past life still lingered, so I obediently ate my ice cream nearby, never mentioning my brother who was crying himself hoarse. It wasn't until the nurse brought my crying brother over, explaining he caught a chill from uncovered blankets and developed a low fever that had left him hoarse, that my mother finally deigned to glance his way. Stop that bawling, that's all you ever do, my mother snapped, digging her sharp nails viciously into my brother's arm. The baby's tender skin immediately bruised into an ugly purple. Unable to bear the sight, Mrs. Eleanor scooped him up and soothed him until his cries subsided. My mother grew even more smug, her eyes crinkling into slits as she addressed Lady Eleanor. Madam, see how this child takes to you. Born without a silver spoon but fussy as nobility, he must find my coarse fabric too rough for his delicate skin. Lady Eleanor looked utterly appalled that a mother would say such things about her newborn. She immediately paid my mother 3 months' wages on the spot. Focus on your postpartum recovery and take good care of your child. You may return to work when the time is right, pocketing the money. My mother grinned like a blooming chrysanthemum. Of course, she nodded, her syrupy tone laced with malice. I'll take very good care of him. The moment Lady Eleanor left with Master Lin, my mother unceremoniously dumped my baby brother on me. Malnourished from my mother's frequent withholding of meals, I was scrawny and underdeveloped, barely strong enough to hold him steady, obsessed with ordering health supplements online. She didn't even react when I accidentally dropped the baby. Back home, she prodded his wrinkled face with displeasure and declared, from now on, your name is Dylan. She kept repeating it to herself until she burst into hysterical laughter. Her long-standing resentment toward the wealthy made it all the sweeter when she thought she'd saddled some rich boy with that ridiculous name. The moment my mom picked up her phone again, her sarcastic expression vanished as her fingers flew across the screen. What a refined name Clarence is. Truly worthy of a master's craftsmanship. As for my dull-witted child, let him remain foolish. For 3 months, my baby brother had no diapers and drank unregulated formula milk. To silence his crying, my mother even stuffed his mouth with socks. With his recurring low fever and constant wailing, she locked both of us outside. In my past life, my brother's dislike for me got me locked out alone at midnight. The neighbor saw my brother and me outside, knocking to admonish our mom. They're both your own children. How can you be so neglectful? And that boy looks so much like you should cherish him properly. Seeing my mother deep in thought, alarm bells immediately went off in my head. If she discovers I didn't swap out my brother, my mother turned to scrutinize me with suspicion, my palms sweating nervously. To my surprise, she just slammed the door brusquely. Nonsense, how could that bitch possibly resemble me? I couldn't help but sigh in relief. My mother was completely lost in her delusional fantasy, in my previous life at home. I was always the most insignificant one, while my brother got whatever he wanted and ruled the roost. This life hasn't shown me any more favor than my brother, not that either of us got treated well. The beatings went from being just my burden to something we both endured. She'd always jab her finger at my head and sneer, useless waste of money, can't even handle simple tasks, what good are you? She even planned to marry me off to some lonely old bachelor the moment I came of age, her way of making sure I wasn't a total loss, so I silently vowed to break free from this family, determined not to let my life end at 25 like in my past existence. When Clarence learned to say mommy and daddy, my mother spent half her savings on a solid gold longevity locket from the jewelry store for him. I warned her, when little brother grows up and realizes how unfairly you've treated him, there'll be hell to pay. My mother sneered. That bastard should be grateful I haven't starved him to death. That's mercy enough. Watching my mother's deranged expression, I nearly burst out laughing. Treating someone else's child like trash. I just hope she can stay this composed when the real truth comes out. Mom never picks me and my brother up, and Dad's away on business, so I took my little brother to the Lynn family's place. Mom was playing with Clarence when she spotted us, visibly annoyed. What are you doing here? I timidly replied. Forgot the house keys. Just as she was about to hit me, Clarence stepped forward and held my hand. No wonder Clarence grew up so loved, plump and rosy-cheeked, utterly adorable. He gave me the sweetest smile. My little brother cowered behind me, his stunted growth making him look nothing like a 6-year-old. All these years, Dylan never had enough to eat or wear. Mom rationed his meals and dressed him in my hand-me-downs. When he waited for me outside the classroom, groups of students would always point and whisper about him. His clothes are so tattered, and there's even a hole in his shoes. Does he not have parents, too? Dylan was trembling all over, cautiously crouching down to hug himself while burying his face in silent sobs. Exactly the same predicament I faced in my past life. Madame Eleanor initially suggested having Dylan accompany Clarence in his studies. My mother shook her head firmly. How could that little bastard of mine possibly attend an elite private kindergarten? It'd just be a waste. Seeing my mother's resolute stance, Mrs. Eleanor had no choice but to drop the matter. My mother stopped herself from hitting me just as Mrs. Eleanor came downstairs. This was Mrs. Eleanor's first time seeing Dylan and me after so long. Even with her refined manners, she couldn't help exclaiming, "Do they even look human anymore?" Before I could say a word, my mother blurted out impatiently, "These kids are born losers. They'll never amount to anything. Just leave him be." All Dylan's pent-up grievances erupted as he sobbed uncontrollably. "Are you even my mother? Do you know what my classmates say about me?" My mother visibly panicked, then shot a glance at Madame Eleanor before slapping frail Dylan so hard he collapsed to the ground. Dylan's right cheek immediately swelled up, and blood began trickling from his nose. "Then don't call me Mom anymore. I refuse to have such an ungrateful child." Then she completely transformed, gently leading Clarence away. "Come dear, Auntie made you something delicious." In the end, it was Lady Eleanor who arranged for Dylan's medical treatment. Standing there, I felt nothing but pity, and a creeping sense of dread. If I actually swapped Clarence in, he'd be suffering for no reason at all. Dylan covered his face with his hands, his eyes darkening with something unsettling as he asked me, "Sis, what kind of child do you think Mom actually likes? Why can't either of us win her affection?" I'd pondered that question too. To earn my parents' approval, I'd stay up late memorizing textbooks, gradually improving my test scores, only to have my perfect exam papers end up as table leg padding, yet with just a casual remark from him. Mom would starve me for days on end. Every villain meets their match. And I'm no saint either, so I calmly echoed his words from our past life. "Just endure it. What if she develops feelings for you someday?" At dinner, Lady Eleanor invited Dylan and me to join the table, but my mother intervened, leaving us to wait until they finished eating. Dylan gazed at the dining table where our mother was doting on another child. The look in his eyes mirrored how I used to gaze at him. When Tycoon Lin noticed Dylan's longing stare, he insisted we all join them at the table. My mother flashed an ingratiating smile, but her words were venomous. "If we let those two eat with us, these dishes will probably be crawling with germs." I paid no attention, silently reviewing today's lessons in my mind. I need to become capable to break free from this family. The rich never understand the poor. They can't comprehend why my mother is so cruel, simply attributing it to lack of money. Yet they pay my mother quite well. She either spends that money on herself or buys Clarence expensive toys, never spending a dime on us. The wealthiest Lynn gave a nod to his attendants, who then presented an array of toys in a solid gold prosperity lock. "These are all gifts from you, and I know you're fond of Clarence, but you should spend your salary on your own children instead." He gave us a meaningful look. Dylan and I were noticeably underdeveloped for our age, alarmingly thin and frail. Mom was clearly upset but held her tongue, insisting the tycoon must keep the presents. Just as Clarence finished his meal and started muttering about being bored, my mom suddenly got all fired up. "Dylan, hurry up and bark like a dog, just like you always do at home to amuse the young master. Irene, don't just stand there. Go fetch a dog bowl. Every child has their pride to maintain in front of peers." He kept his head down in silence. Just as I thought Mom was going too far and was about to speak up, she suddenly kicked Dylan to the ground. "After raising you all these years, you can't even bark like a dog." She kept glancing at Lady Eleanor's reaction. The more distressed Lady Eleanor looked, the more vicious Mom became. I tugged at Lady Eleanor's sleeve and secretly slipped her a note. Neither Lady Eleanor nor the billionaire could talk my mother out of it. She seemed to relish beating Dylan right before their eyes. It wasn't until Clarence cried, "This is horrifying, there's blood everywhere, stop hitting him," that my mother finally lowered her hand. I saw Dylan bow his head. Where in this world does true empathy not exist? Right here, right now. In that moment, he realized all his desperate efforts to please couldn't compare to another child's careless remark. I overheard the maids whispering, "Are neither of these children really hers? Even a vicious tiger wouldn't harm its own cub. How could she?" I don't really resemble my parents, but if you look closely at Dylan, you can see traces of their features, yet my mother never bothered to examine him properly. My mother broke into a cold sweat upon hearing the maid's whispers. "How dare you servants gossip like this? Of course they look like me, they came from my own womb." With that, my mom turned and fixed her gaze on Dylan. For a second she froze, her pupils dilating as if recognizing their blood connection. I dug my nails into my palms, my heart pounding like a drum. Did she figure it out? In a flash, she slapped Dylan across the face. "Get out of my sight," she snapped before scooping up Clarence. After returning from the villa, my mother got fired. 3, she went berserk, beating both me and Dylan mercilessly. "This is all your fault. You cost me my job." Dylan thought it was completely unfair and ran away, while I just stood there taking the beating. "Because I was the one who did it," I told Mrs. Eleanor that my mom had anger issues and would beat Dylan and me daily at home. I even got her contact information from Mrs. Eleanor. My mom put on a good act at the Lynn household, but she just couldn't help herself, couldn't resist abusing her child right in front of that so-called mother. I secretly recorded my mother beating me with my phone and sent the video to Mrs. Eleanor after she went back to her room. Mrs. Eleanor immediately showed sympathy and told me to visit her tomorrow, saying she'd sponsor my education. I promised to pay them back in the future. I did it on purpose today, deliberately brought Dylan to the Lynn family's place, because I saw my mom's chat history with someone else. She wanted me to start working illegally right after elementary school. I knew Mrs. Eleanor was kind-hearted, so I made sure she saw my mother's true colors. Only this way can I gain sympathy and get the money to continue my education, to change my life. When Dylan came back and saw me covered in wounds, the fear in his eyes was impossible to hide. "Sis, why didn't you fight back? Fight back. If resistance worked, I wouldn't have been dismembered by you in my past life." I sneered inwardly while maintaining a filial daughter's facade. "She's our mother. Isn't it our duty as children to respect her?" Unexpectedly, Dylan leaned in and whispered doubtfully, "Do you think we might not be her biological children?" I feigned surprise. "What makes you say that?" Having seen something outside, Dylan whispered to me, "I heard kids went missing in our city years ago. Do you think we were bought by her?" His eyes sparkled with desperate hope as he spoke, but I snuffed out that flicker of hope the very next second. "Little brother," I said, "I was there when Mom gave birth to you at the hospital. How could we possibly be bought?" After her nap, Mom saw Dylan had returned. Still fuming, she gave him another brutal beating. This time Dylan didn't fight back. When he finally looked up, I saw smoldering hatred in his eyes. Early next morning, just as Dylan and I were leaving for school, Mom stopped us. "I'm unemployed now, and you still want an education. Get your asses to work." With teary eyes, I looked at her. "Mom, even if we leave now, we'd only find under-the-table jobs with terrible pay. My scholarship covers school. I won't be a financial burden, and when I start earning money someday, I'll make sure to take good care of you." Mom's expression softened, and I delivered the final blow. "If I get into the Provincial Key High School, we'll still be close to the Lynn family mansion. When you come pick me up." Finally, she grudgingly opened the door and let me out. Dylan tried to follow me out, but was shoved back, hitting the corner of the table. I turned around just in time to see a pool of blood on the floor before the door slammed shut. The slamming door was followed by Dylan's piercing scream. When I came home from school, I found Dylan locked outside. He burst into tears when he saw me. "Why didn't you take me with you today? You're just like that old hag. Selfish, selfish." He's so ruthless now that he'd even curse himself. I explained gently, "In that situation today, even if I'd taken you along, we'd both have gotten beaten badly." As I spoke, I handed him the candy from school that I didn't like sending charcoal in snowy weather. I was the only one in the family who cared about him. With such a stark contrast, his resentment toward his mother must have grown even deeper. I promised to find Dylan a tutor and insisted that my mother take him to the lessons. After wasting so many days, there was no way he could make up for his poor grades. So he started skipping school and hanging out with troublemakers. I made every second count studying, and often took weekend part-time jobs as my mother insisted. During those jobs, I'd casually inquire about missing children cases and actually uncovered some leads. When the high school entrance exams ended, I got into the Provincial Key High School while Dylan got expelled from middle school for constant truancy. My mother refused to let Dylan continue schooling, turning a blind eye to him hanging out with delinquents day and night. The more Dylan rots, the happier she gets. She's constantly stalking Mrs. Eleanor's social media just to keep tabs on Clarence. See how accomplished Clarence is. That's what you'd expect from someone raised in the Lynn family, the wealthiest household. My mom nearly split her face grinning when she saw Clarence won the math Olympiad during dinner. Dylan had dyed his hair bright yellow and gotten a lip piercing, looking every bit the rebellious punk. He raised an eyebrow with a mocking tone. "Anyone who knows I'm your son. Those who don't would think Clarence is your golden child." His words were casual, but they sent my mom into such a panic that her chopsticks clattered to the floor. "What nonsense are you spouting? If only you weren't so useless. Can't learn a damn thing. Good for nothing." Mom grabbed the feather duster from the side as she kept talking. "I'll write my name backwards if I don't beat you to death today." When Dylan was little, he still held on to the naive hope that Mom might suddenly have a change of heart. He wouldn't fight back, but now, Dylan kicked my mom to the ground without hesitation. My mom's face turned purple with rage as she pointed at Dylan in disbelief. "How dare you kick me? You've got some nerve." Dylan sneered. "First you say I'm useless, now you say I've got nerve. Which one should I believe?" My mom seemed to regret having spoiled Dylan to the point of defiance, as she was about to speak. Dylan slammed the door and stormed out. My mother was trembling with rage, her gaze quickly locking onto me. "You worthless brat, why didn't you help me earlier?" As the feather duster was about to strike me, I looked up and said softly, "Mom, Mrs. Eleanor wants me to tutor at the Lynn household. If I'm injured, I might not be able to go." The moment I stood up, the sudden movement sent my mother crashing hard onto the floor. But she didn't dare hit me, so she just fumed silently. Watching her eat humble pie, I nearly burst out laughing. When I visited the Lynns on weekend, my mom insisted on tagging along but got stopped by security. Madam's orders, no one gets in except the tutor. I'd anticipated my mother would follow, so I'd already given Mrs. Eleanor a heads up. After all, Mrs. Eleanor still remembers how my mother used to beat Dylan and me upon entering the Lynn residence. I was surprised to find my tutoring assignment had doubled from just Clarence to 2 students. With a gentle smile, Mrs. Eleanor explained, "This is my friend's daughter. They had some business to attend to, so they left her in my care. I was just supervising Clarence's homework and helping him with English, which isn't his strongest subject. Having one more or one less student wouldn't make much difference to me." After the tutoring session, the little girl asked for my contact information. "Miss, you explain things so much better than my previous tutors. Can I ask my parents to hire you?" After some thought, I realized I needed money and had to move out of that house, so I nodded and gave the little girl my phone number. The moment I stepped outside, my mother grabbed my hand and asked anxiously, "How's Clarence doing with his studies? Can you find a way to get me back as his nanny? If you help me return, I promise I won't stand in your way ever again." My mother's sharp nails dug into my hand painfully. I winced and tried to break free from her grip, but she held me firmly in place. "I remember you wanted to board at school. If you help me get into the Lynn family, I'll sign the permission form when we get home. Boarding at school would let me focus more on studies, but staying home means I'd have to do all the housework." After a moment of silence, I nodded in agreement. "But they already have enough nannies. There's no guarantee you'll even get to see young Master Lynn if you go in." My mother scoffed coldly. "Don't you worry your filthy little head about that." After returning home, I sent a message to Lady Eleanor, truthfully relaying my mother's threats. Finally, I proposed securing a new job for my mother. When Mom found out, she was over the moon and immediately signed the dormitory permission form. Watching her beam with joy, I secretly hoped she'd still be smiling tomorrow after learning about her work assignment. Dylan didn't come home today. Not that Mom noticed. She was too giddy about visiting the Lynns tomorrow to even realize her precious bank card was missing from the nightstand where she usually admires it daily. I saw Dylan take that bank card. After I'd casually mentioned Mom always uses her birthday as the pin, I suppose he's probably living it up somewhere now, pretending to be wealthy. After getting the application, I immediately went back to my room to pack. Not that I had much to pack anyway. I only had a few clothes, 2 pairs of shoes, and nothing else. The next day, my mother started her new job, and I went to the little girl's house for tutoring. Lily's parents never showed up during the entire class. I later found out from her that her parents were often busy outside, so it was usually just her and the servants at home. "Big sister, I feel such a connection with you. Could you come visit me more often?" With that, she handed me a paper bag filled with cash. "I don't have a bank card, and I don't want my mom to handle it for me either. If she got involved, I'd basically be working for free. That's why I always have Mrs. Eleanor pay me in cash." I took the money and patted her head. After making sure she finished her homework, she started bragging about her progress to Clarence. Her sudden burst of laughter startled me as I was memorizing vocabulary nearby. Lily came running over and held up her phone for me to see. When I took it, I realized the person in the video was my mom. A big yellow dog was chasing her around, and when she fell, it licked off her carefully applied makeup. She looked utterly ridiculous. This became her new job, walking the Lynn family's dog. The dog was bought by Mrs. Eleanor after Clarence begged for it as a reward for his improved grades. He absolutely adores the pup, but large breeds are full of energy, and Mrs. Eleanor simply didn't have the stamina for daily walks. With both Dylan and me away from home, she happened to have energy to spare with nowhere to channel it. A smile tugged at my lips as I handed the phone back to Lily. "I've saved up enough money, and I'm getting closer to the truth." On Monday, I moved into the school dorm, only for my mom to discover her bank account was empty when she went to get the rabies vaccine. The bank statement showed all the money had been spent at KTVs and similar places. These past 2 days, I've either been at home or tutoring, always under her watchful eye. It was the first time she'd ever called Dylan herself to track him down, but he kept hanging up on her, sending her into such a rage that she started throwing things around the house. That card held nearly her entire life savings, and now there wasn't a single penny left. She came to my school, yanked me outside roughly, and snarled, "Where's your tutoring money? Hand it all over right now." Having rehearsed our stories beforehand, I looked at her with shameless confidence and shrugged. "Madam Eleanor only tops up my meal card. I don't have a single cent on me. If I did, I'd have bought some laundry detergent by now." Glaring at my threadbare coat, my mother pinched me hard and snapped, "Even when you have money, you're forbidden to buy clothes." I'm your mother. Every penny of yours should be spent on filial duties for me. I smiled sweetly and nodded obediently. Of course, I'll always take care of you, Mom, but you're not even my real mother. Why should I owe you any filial duty? I added silently in my heart. This morning, I took sick leave and went to the hospital alone with the money I'd scraped together and a strand of her hair for a paternity test. The results confirmed I wasn't Mabel's biological child, having suspected it all along. I felt no joy in the revelation. No wonder she could lock me up for days without caring if I lived or died. No wonder she helped cover up when Dylan dismembered me, even squeezing out my last drop of worth. I used to naively think she simply disliked me, so I desperately tried to please her, only to end up in pieces. I clenched my fists tightly, reining in my emotions. In this lifetime, I'll make sure to repay her kindness for raising me all these years, with senior year approaching. I quit my tutoring job. Surprisingly, Mrs. Eleanor insisted I focus on exams and even gave me a generous sum of money. Lily went the extra mile too. She had her parents rent an apartment for me off campus, making those late-night study sessions much more convenient. Dylan kept showing up at school looking for me, but I managed to dodge him every time, whenever he came around. He'd always have a bunch of troublemakers in tow. Didn't take a genius to figure out he was broke again. I unexpectedly got a call from Mabel today. She was sobbing hysterically, saying Dylan had stolen and sold our TV and washing machine. I responded coldly, "Why don't you call the police? I can't control him either." So Dylan ended up in juvenile detention. Mabel enjoys inflicting pain on others. The thought of the richest family's son being locked up in juvie made her parade around the Lynn household with her dog every day, all dolled up. Yet every time I ended up being chased by dogs in utter disarray. Soon after the college entrance exams ended, Dylan was finally released. Having aced the exams, I even received a scholarship from the school, so that day, I treated Mabel's family to dinner, but with her husband working overtime, only she and Dylan showed up. Mabel gloated triumphantly, "Now that you've gotten into a top university, your salary must be decent. Hand over every penny to me from now on, or I'll go to your workplace and shame you for being an ungrateful wretch." Dylan spat at Mabel. "You gave birth but never raised me, yet expect to reap the benefits. My sister will take care of me, not a wicked hag like you." Truly cut from the same cloth, this mother and son pair shared the same selfish, self-serving nature. I deliberately ordered fine wine, pleased by my thoughtfulness. Mabel wore a satisfied smile and kept refilling her glass, passed out in no time. Then I kept whispering Clarence repeatedly in her ear. She jolted upright. "My son will make something of himself someday." Dylan's alcohol tolerance had improved through practice. Still sober at this point, he widened his eyes in disbelief at these words. Mabel's next words made Dylan snap instantly. "With my son now part of the Lynn family, do you really think my life could get any worse?" It felt like decades of confusion had finally found resolution. Dylan glared at Mabel with fire in his eyes. "What the hell are you saying?" Mabel had already passed out, and I pretended to be drunk and blacked out too. Through half-closed eyes, I watched Dylan unlock Mabel's phone with her fingerprint, then flash a knowing look. Mabel's phone contained nothing but her own selfies and countless photos of Clarence. Dylan either had to accept that Mabel had a crush on Clarence, or face an undeniable truth. So Clarence is actually Mabel's child. Which means he's... Dylan's hands trembled with rage, his flushed face betraying anger rather than drunkenness. He slapped Mabel twice across the face. "Damn it. So it was your son who stole my privileged life. Just wait till I get home. I'll make sure my parents wipe out your whole family." Dylan stormed off in fury, while Mabel remained dead drunk, completely unfazed by the slaps. I had Mabel's husband come pick her up. Her husband still didn't know what had happened, and we hadn't really spoken much over the years. 5. He glanced at me with empty eyes. "Aren't you going home today?" Remembering the stories the elders had told me, I suddenly blurted out, "Dad." Dylan just stormed out after Mom upset him. "Look, she's still got 2 bright red marks on her face. He's rarely home, and Mabel never told him about the baby swap. You kids are nothing but trouble. If you'd behaved better, your mother wouldn't treat you this way." I dodged the question. Dylan just stormed off after accusing us of not being Mom and Dad's real kids. He frowned instinctively. "Dylan came straight from your mother's womb. Don't play dumb. Why didn't you stop him? What good would come from your brother getting hurt? Never a word about me, yet always squeezing me dry." It dawned on me, the couple who fled after trafficking children must be them. "What about me, Dad? I got into college." "But you didn't even seem happy." He was clearly guilty. A flicker of awkwardness crossing his face before sending me 200 yuan via WeChat. I smiled faintly. "I'm meeting friends today, so I won't be coming back. Actually, I'll never be coming back." I watched them walk away, then compiled all the evidence into files and sent them out. That evening, I received a call from Dylan. "Did you know I'm not Mabel's real son? You were there when she gave birth. Did she switch me with Clarence?" He pressed me urgently, trying to guilt me into testifying for him. I replied with the same detached calm, "Don't be ridiculous. You're her real son. Stop imagining things." When he didn't get the answer he wanted, Dylan sneered, "Still lying for that woman. Just wait. Tomorrow you'll both burn in hell." Having been threatened by him in past lives perhaps, I wasn't the least bit frightened. Instead, I chuckled and said, "Oh, I'll be waiting to see that." The next morning, Mabel was jolted awake by a call from Lady Eleanor. Mabel called me, her voice sharp with panic. "Did you feed Dylan the wrong story? Why's he gone to the Lynns claiming kinship today? Get your ass back here now." When I strolled leisurely into the Lynn residence, Mabel was throwing a tantrum on the floor. "When did I ever say my son was young Master Lynn? Stop spreading lies." Dylan rolled up his sleeves, revealing scars all over his arms. He sneered bitterly, "If I were your biological son, would you have treated me like this? You didn't care when I dropped out of school, didn't care when I ran wild. Are you even my real mother?" Mabel sobbed hysterically to Lady Eleanor. "Don't listen to his lies, my lady. He's just resentful because I had to discipline his outrageous behavior." Lady Eleanor frowned at Dylan. "I won't believe a word of it without proof." Dylan forcibly unlocked Mabel's phone to show Lady Eleanor the photos she'd saved of Clarence, if I recall correctly. She even gave Clarence a golden locket, yet never gave me anything. As Lady Eleanor pondered, Mabel grew increasingly pale. "My lady, I simply thought the young master looked cheerful." Dylan kicked Mabel and snarled, "You bitch, why don't you just die? You stole my life." Clarence stood there bewildered while Lily tugged at his arm. When I arrived, both Dylan and Mabel locked eyes with me, demanding in unison, "You tell us. Why not just take a paternity test?" Lily whispered in my defense as the two ganged up on me. Mabel panicked. "No way." Dylan grabbed Clarence. "Come with me." The scene descended into chaos, ending with Mabel being dragged to the hospital. After all, Dylan had been making a scene since dawn. Leaving this unresolved would damage the Lynn family's reputation. Since I had to give Lily a lesson today and she wouldn't let go of me, we all ended up going to the hospital together. During the examination, Mabel's extreme reluctance only strengthened Dylan's conviction that he must have been switched at birth. Mrs. Eleanor took a deep breath as she awaited the final results. Just as Mabel reached to snatch the report when it came out, Dylan shoved her away abruptly. Mabel immediately collapsed to the ground. Dylan's entire body trembled as he read the report. Whether from shock or disbelief at the results, he couldn't tell. Seeing Dylan's trembling hands, Clarence, already unsettled by his earlier confidence, mistook it for exhilaration. Without warning, Dylan grabbed a nearby medicine bottle and smashed it against Mabel's head. Before anyone could react, Mabel clutched her head and let out a piercing scream. Everyone immediately assumed Dylan had discovered he'd been replaced and was lashing out in anger, thinking her scheme was exposed. Mabel picked up a shard from the ground and lunged at Dylan. "If you die, do you really think Lady Eleanor would abandon the son she's raised for years?" No sooner had these words been spoken than Mabel and Dylan were locked in combat. A scream pierced the air as Dylan's artery was severed, while Mabel's head swelled grotesquely. Lady Eleanor picked up the report. "Doesn't this prove you two are mother and son? That Clarence is my child?" "What?" Mabel rushed over in frozen shock upon seeing the report. Then she screamed at the top of her lungs, "Save my son! Someone, please save my boy." As Dylan was wheeled into the ICU, Mabel glared at me venomously. You didn't switch them. You've ruined us." Glancing at my phone showing news of Mabel's husband's arrest, I smirked. "Don't rush. I've got another surprise for you." Dylan lost too much blood and couldn't be revived. Mabel lunged at me in a frenzy, her wounds still bleeding from the earlier struggle with Dylan. Before she could reach me, the police had her in handcuffs. "You were already involved in child trafficking, and now you've committed murder. You'll never escape this." Mabel killed her own son and was in a dazed state, unable to provide any information about the abducted child. I went to the police station as well, hoping to cross-reference with records of previously missing children. To my surprise, it was Lily who came to pick me up. Her parents were always busy, also searching everywhere for their eldest daughter. Feeling my mother's warm embrace for the first time, I couldn't hold back my tears. The Mabels have been sentenced to death. Holding my sister's hand, I stepped into a new dawn. The end. Story 2. When the apocalypse arrived, I found myself trapped in my school dormitory. The good news, I awakened a special ability, which is the power to summon the male and female protagonists from the stories I've written to rescue me. The bad news, in the novels I wrote, the female protagonists are either hopelessly naive and sweet or cruel and cunning like the poppy flower, while the male protagonists are either deceitful to the extreme or cold and tyrannical regent kings. My roommate asked, "Are you trying to get us killed faster?" 1. When the apocalypse struck, my roommate and I were confined to our dorm room. From outside, we could intermittently hear the screams of people and the gnashing of zombies, painting a gruesome picture of carnage and bloodshed. We barricaded the door with every heavy object we could use to prevent the zombies from breaking in. As we watched our food supplies diminish, our anxiety grew. Coincidentally, I developed a fever. In my delirious state, I fevered for an entire day and night. When I finally awoke, it felt like something had changed in my mind. Tentatively, I focused my thoughts. Suddenly, a panel appeared in midair. Me, name, and ability. Summon the male and female protagonists created in your novels. Limitation: can only summon one at a time, cannot retract after summoning. The summoned characters are not under the author's control. Characters created after the ability's emergence cannot be summoned. Key point: unfinished stories cannot summon protagonists, only completed stories can. Note: the protagonists are human. They can feel hunger, pain, and they can die. Cooldown period: 72 hours. List of male protagonists, list of female protagonists. I was utterly baffled at that time. The internet was still functioning, and both my roommate and I learned online that after the apocalypse began, some people turned into zombies while others became individuals with special powers. Most of these powers were similar to those found in apocalyptic novels. Elemental abilities like metal, wood, water, fire, earth hardly need mentioning. Besides these, there were healing, spatial, electrical, mental, and strength powers. But was my ability a bit too absurd? My roommate Kieran, seeing me sitting there dumbfounded, furrowed his brow in concern and touched my forehead. "You're not hot. Did the fever fry your brain?" I took a deep breath and said slowly, "I have something to tell you. I've awakened a special ability, too." Our dorm room was a standard room for 4 people. When I realized I was feverish and felt weak all over, my heart sank. According to the internet, if a person develops a fever, there's a high chance they might turn into a zombie. If my roommates found out I was feverish, they would likely cast me out or abandon me. In times of imminent danger, human nature is severely tested, but how could I possibly hide this? They quickly noticed my flushed face and labored breathing. I imagined they might either gently persuade me, threaten me harshly, or simply take action, unexpectedly, after exchanging glances. The dorm leader Paige somehow produced a thick rope and tied me up like a giant dumpling. Roommate Karen rummaged through our belongings and found 2 Wake fever-reducing pills. Roommate Rose hesitated but eventually used our scarce water supply to wipe my face and cool me down. Paige, with eyes full of apology, said, "And, just to prevent you from suddenly turning into a zombie, we have to do this." I opened my mouth, but due to extreme weakness and fatigue, I couldn't speak. Rose, who knew me best, scoffed, "You weren't about to say, 'Why don't you just throw me out?' Were you?" Rose and I usually didn't get along, always competing in secret, competing over academic points, awards, and even party membership qualifications. The more attention we paid to each other, the more we naturally understood about each other's character. I remained silent. Karen was slightly surprised. "And, what are you thinking about? We're roommates. How could you think we'd do something like that?" Paige said quietly, "Kieran, Anne's worries are not unfounded. Remember just a few days ago in the school group chat, someone was kicked out of the boys' dorm because his roommate thought he was bitten by a zombie. Turns out, he was eaten by zombies." Paige continued. Kieran turned pale. Rose rubbed her head, her tone mocking. "Such an innocent girl. But don't worry, we wouldn't do something that disgraceful, and, as long as you're not a zombie, you're still our roommate. We won't abandon you." Paige said seriously, "So, during my fever, they took turns looking after me. It was only after my fever broke and they untied me that they finally relaxed. I was undoubtedly grateful and told them about my newly awakened ability as soon as I could." "Wait, and you've really awakened a special ability?" Rose asked incredulously. "What kind of ability?" Karen was curious. They had seen videos online. People with abilities could be incredibly powerful, almost like controlling the weather. I hesitated, embarrassed, and then explained my ability. My roommates were puzzled. "Wait, and you're a novelist?" "Oh no, you can summon the protagonists you write about. What kind of bizarre ability is that?" As I explained, I opened the list of female protagonists. "What are you clicking on?" And Karen asked, confused. "Right, they couldn't see my panel. I've written many types of novels: modern, historical, campus, tragic romance, wealthy CEOs, ancient strategies, cultivation, supernatural, dark thrillers, both long and short stories." When a string of female protagonist names appeared, my face twitched. I closed that and then opened the list of male protagonists. Seeing those familiar yet distant names, I covered my eyes in anguish. "Seriously, is there really a need for this ability? I can't choose, just can't choose." My 3 roommates clearly couldn't understand my dilemma. Rose stroked her chin, a glint in her eye. "This ability seems pretty good. We're running out of food and there are so many zombies outside, and why don't you summon some powerful character to wipe them out, like those heroes who fall off cliffs, learn ultimate secrets, and dazzle everyone?" "I write romance." "Thank you, no such characters like that," I replied. "And, do you have characters like a noble immortal, someone who controls the world, with high cultivation, who might help us?" Karen asked excitedly. I sighed. "No immortals. but I did write several demon lords and demon gods who slaughtered realms for their love interests. Paige, sensing my mood was off, ventured, do you have any characters who are powerful or skilled in both literature and martial arts from ancient times? Their skills and strategies might help us. I felt depressed. I scrolled through the list again. As their creator, I know their virtues all too well. I don't have control over the characters. When I summon them, who knows if they're on my side or the enemy's? My fingers trembled as I dismissed the panel, so I handed over the choice to my roommate, for I closed my eyes, embarrassed, and blurted out 2 pseudonyms, Fugitive Madonna of Paris, which is my pen name for novels, and Hello Son, It's Your Dad, which is my pen name for short stories. My 3 roommates, Rose seemed to have realized something, her face turning pale as she began to scream, and, what are you saying? You're the crappy author known as the Fugitive Madonna of Paris. Me, Rose smirked sinisterly. Madonna, do you remember the ID all Madonnas should die for my grandfather? Of course, I remembered. That ID had been the most vicious in criticizing my contemporary novel about chasing one's wife to the crematorium. What a trashy novel, with a brain-dead protagonist and a sycophantic heroine. The two together couldn't even muster a brain to write such a plot, making the author a top-tier idiot and a VIP among scoundrels. The male lead is affectionate. His affection is as worthless as a hair on his genitals. He believes everything except the female lead, lacking a brain stem, half-blind. Did this male lead hide when humans were evolving? The dung beetle excitedly opened up the author's brain. Then, I had banned that ID. A bad feeling surged within me. Are you all Madonnas should die for my grandfather? Rose grinned, grinding her teeth. Yes. That's me, Great Madonna of Paris. I fell silent. One can die in 100 ways, but social death is the worst. As Rose spoke, she quickly began searching my pseudonyms on Baidu, her expression twisted and fierce. Great Madonna, I'm quite curious to see if your skills have significantly improved over the years. The other 2 roommates were clueless and took advantage of the still-functioning internet to search my pseudonyms and started reading my past works. Time ticked by. I watched helplessly as another roommate's expression changed from confusion to bafflement to shock and then to bewilderment as they flipped through the pages. I painfully clutched at my chest, my toes curling as if to dig out a Barbie castle. Who could understand the feeling of watching your roommates read your novels right in front of you? Rose read quickly, 10 lines at a glance. True to her reputation as a top student, she extracted key plots, analyzed the personalities of each protagonist, and predicted their actions in certain situations. After finishing, she too fell silent. She finally understood why my face had looked as if I'd swallowed something disgusting when they had asked me earlier. She sincerely asked, and, did you intend for us to die quicker by summoning your characters? Me, Kieran looked bewildered. Clearly? As a good girl, she had never encountered such a morally destructive plot, and, are you sure you're not an undercover zombie sent here? Paige looked at me with a complex expression. Can't you write somewhat normal characters? Rose retorted irritably. There are characters with normal morals, but none of them are the protagonists and can't be summoned, and did write a sweet novel once where the male lead was a positive military figure. But she abandoned that book. I glanced at the list of male leads, the grayed-out unclickable one, and awkwardly smiled. I couldn't help it. That book had no audience, and the author needs to eat. 5. Have you decided on whom to choose? I asked. The 3 of them hesitated. Inside, I felt as if a herd of alpacas were stampeding through my heart. Why hadn't I written a benevolent male lead in my youth? Young and ignorant, I mistook madness for treasure. Irritated, I scrolled through the list, unable to decide. Just as I was about to close it, suddenly, my fever-addled brain fuzzed, my finger twitched, and I accidentally selected one of the least desired male leads, summoning male lead Jeremy. A blinding flash of light followed, a sword stained with blood. A man in a black robe, wearing a jade crown and possessing an exceptionally handsome face, appeared suddenly. He seemed utterly unfazed by his sudden arrival in this unfamiliar place. Calmly observing the 4 of us, he uttered, "You 4? Is this another trap set by that old fool, the Emperor's sorcerer?" Then, narrowing his eyes, his lips curled into a sinister smile. "But no matter, I'll start by killing you to appease my sword." In a flash, I quickly tackled Paige, who was closest to me, to the ground, while Rose deftly tripped Kieran. The fierce sweep of the sword passed just over our heads. Boom, boom, boom. The door behind us shattered into pieces and fell to the ground with a crash, stirring up a cloud of dust. Jeremy, the male protagonist from a novel I wrote years ago titled The Cannon Fodder Queen Consort of the Regent King, was a character known for his ruthless and merciless nature, possessing immense power and top-tier martial and strategic skills. Most importantly, he was genuinely unhinged. Summoning this character, I barely had time to panic before it felt like I had taken a stroll on the edge of the underworld. As the door fell, the dim sky outside cast a pale light inside. The air was thick with the smell of blood and the stench of rotting corpses, and the chilling wind was truly eerie. The zombies roaming the corridor seemed to have caught the scent of the living and began howling excitedly. Caught between a rock and a hard place, us, Rose, with a chilling smile, said, "Thanks to you, and we're going to die even faster." Paige spoke somberly. "Is this what they mean by the ship sinks when it reaches the bridge?" Kieran added. "Hearing about your abilities warmed my heart more than the Sahara Desert, but now, my heart is colder than the summit of Mount Everest. Truly, it's a dead end." I admit my mistake. Jeremy seemed to sense that something was off. His oppressive gaze fell on us, but before he could interrogate us, several zombies appeared at the door, perhaps because we were lying down. The zombies noticed Jeremy first. They made a heh-heh noise and lunged at him with their blood-stained, rotten hands. At that moment, Jeremy stood there nonchalantly, facing these ghastly creatures without a hint of fear, even showing a barely perceptible excitement and pleasure, not moving an inch. Kieran grabbed my hand, his voice filled with tension. "Isn't he going to move? Is he waiting to die?" I shook my head. "He won't die that easily." Sure enough, a few flashes of his sword later, the zombies were decapitated, spewing dark purple blood from their necks. If I hadn't dodged quickly, I would have been covered. A few drops splattered on Jeremy's face, making his already excessively striking features even more enchantingly sinister, as if a demon had stepped out of hell. Such looks were absolutely lethal, and his combat skills equally unmatched. Can I say this is just like the protagonist I wrote? Jeremy stepped over the zombie corpses and ignored us, walking out of the dormitory. At that time in the university, whether it was teachers, students, or other staff, they were either infected by the virus and turned into zombies or were caught and eaten by them. The rest, like us, were hiding in the dorms, sustaining on stored food and waiting for rescue. I hesitated for a moment, then stood up, and Rose called out to me. "Don't come out yet," I said through gritted teeth. Jeremy was a creation of mine, and even I, as his creator, couldn't compliment his terrible personality. Writing him felt thrilling and impactful at the time. But such a character in reality, better keep my roommates away from him, to avoid Jeremy killing them all in a frenzy. As for me, I don't believe that as an author, I have no control over the characters in my novel. Otherwise, if I were to summon the demon lord from my writings who could destroy all three realms, let's just say it would be the end for everyone. Jeremy pulled a clean handkerchief from his waist and wiped the blood off his sword, then asked, "What year is this, and where am I?" He turned to face me, his gaze both lazy and dangerous. It seemed that if I misspoke, I would meet the same fate as those zombies. I tried to calm myself and met his gaze directly. "This is the year 2035, and you are currently at a university. You could also think of it as having traveled through time, meaning you've come from your world to a completely unfamiliar one due to forces beyond your control. Traveled through time." He chuckled softly through his nose. "That's interesting, then." I felt a chill at my throat, and a sharp pain slowly crept to my nerves. The black-robed regent's sword tip was pressed against my throat, his face mocking and cold. "Although I don't know what's going on, my arrival here is definitely connected to you. This protagonist really is perceptive." I exhaled and admitted, "Yes, trying to outsmart a protagonist like Jeremy, who is almost devilishly intelligent, is not a wise move." Suddenly, a panel appeared again in front of me, flashing a red warning. "Attention, holder of this supernatural ability, please be aware of your personal safety. If the holder dies, the world created by their pen will collapse and all creatures originating from that world, including the summoned protagonists, will perish without the possibility of reincarnation." I knew there had to be some limitations. In the novels I write, even if the male lead is terrible or insane and might not care about his or anyone else's life, the life of the female lead is ultimately important to them. I pondered, could this possibly restrain the protagonist from reckless actions? After all, if I really died, not to mention the female lead, every blade of grass, every flower, every tree in that world would not escape death. My anxiety eased slightly. I calmly said, "You must know Sadie, right?" The man's pupils contracted slightly. I earnestly continued, "She is my daughter, a character I created. If not my daughter, then what?" Jeremy seemed to find this hilariously absurd, his thin lips parting slightly. "Sadie of the Gu family, the darling of the Prime Minister of Linyu country, one of the 4 talented women of the country. Her mother being the legitimate daughter of one of the 4 major families, the Yin family." His tone seemed to question, "Do you match up?" I wasn't upset, but continued to calmly narrate everything, including that they are characters I created in my novel, the supernatural abilities I awakened during the apocalypse, and that summoning him was just an accident. I sincerely said, "Given the circumstances, I hope you can help us. Once everything is over, I'll find a way to send you back." Jeremy smirked. That's just your side of the story. Who knows, maybe if I kill you, I might be able to go back. I was so frustrated it hurt. Why did I even write such a fickle protagonist? I grasped the sword at my throat, trying to push it away but couldn't. I couldn't bear it any longer and smirked back. You can try, but just so you know, if I die, you won't survive either. The world you are from will collapse immediately, and everyone you love will turn to ash. Jeremy. You might not care about your own life, but would you gamble with Sadie's? The blade cut into my palm, blood dripping down, truly worthy of being the #1 sword described in my novel. But did it have to be so sharp? Jeremy looked at me intensely, then finally moved the sword away. Yes, indeed, he didn't dare to take the risk. Normally, isn't the heroine always the male lead's weakness? Seeing Jeremy had stopped, I didn't linger and turned back to the dorm. My roommates were startled by the blood on my hands. Paige quickly wet a towel and started dabbing off the blood from my hands, scolding, "And, are you out of your mind? Who taught you to catch a sword with your bare hands? You didn't think that looked cool, did you?" I winced in pain. How was I supposed to know the sword was that sharp? I stepped back, but the tip was still at my throat. It was unbearable. I just tried to push it away and it sliced through my hand. Was that sword poisoned? Kieran timidly raised his hand. If I remember correctly, wasn't that sword of your male lead previously stained with zombie blood, which meant the sword could be contaminated with the zombie virus? Rose quickly grabbed a bottle of disinfectant alcohol, opened it, and poured it all over my wound. 7. Whether I've turned into a zombie, I don't know. I only know the pain almost had me seeing my great-grandmother. Tears filled my eyes as I looked at my hand wrapped in layers of bandages. My lips trembling. "Rose, I hate you," Rose sneered. "I think your brain must have been kicked by a donkey if you thought grabbing the sword barehanded was a good idea, even if you wanted to push it away. Couldn't you have pinched the blade between 2 fingers instead of grabbing it with your whole hand? In this apocalyptic world, even a small wound could be fatal, and yet you grasped it with your whole hand." I hung my head, scolded. What I didn't say was, if I hadn't acted tough. How could I have impressed Jeremy enough to make him believe what I was saying? It's all too difficult. The dorm's door was already broken, no longer safe to stay. Paige checked our supplies, her voice grave. "The water and electricity are cut off now. We have left 6 bottles of drinking water, 5 packs of instant noodles, 3 packs of compressed biscuits, and 4 cans of fruit." We each packed a backpack silently, filling it with the little food we had left, emergency medicine, and knives for protection. As we stepped out of the dorm, we saw a few more zombie corpses on the ground. A girl in a white dress, beautiful and delicate, tried to pull at Jeremy's robe but ended up being choked by him. "Want to die? Ha." Jeremy's smile was charming, his features stunning, but his actions were merciless. The girl, terrified, shook her head, her face turning a mix of blue and purple, desperately slapping at his hand. Disgusted, Jeremy threw her to the ground as if she was something filthy. Seeing clearly who the girl was, my roommates and I fell silent. Rebecca, a very famous character at our college, outwardly innocent and pure, inwardly greedy and malicious, known for bullying fellow students, fond of stealing other people's boyfriends. Paige's boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, had been snatched by her. Honestly, she provided plenty of material for the villainess in my novel. Many guys fell for Rebecca's innocent act, and whenever she was involved in a dispute, those guys usually took her side. I had also had conflicts with her. She had stolen my diamond necklace. When the theft came to light, she hid behind her so-called protectors, her face pitiful but her eyes defiant. One of her protectors frowned at me and said, "It's just a necklace. Rebecca didn't do it on purpose. Are you really going to be petty over such a small thing?" I smiled, ignoring the protector's attempt to stop me, dragged Rebecca out and slapped her hard. Today, she finally bit off more than she could chew. "How could you do that?" Another girl helped Rebecca up, her tone filled with indignation, yet her gaze towards Jeremy was clearly filled with admiration and love. "Even if you don't like Rebecca, you shouldn't resort to violence. You owe her an apology." Where did this fool come from? Forget that Jeremy comes from an ancient ruling class that regarded human life as insignificant, but now, in this post-apocalyptic world, even the law can't restrain people, and you're talking to him about morals. As Rebecca caught her breath, she saw Jeremy's gaze shifting to my face, a flash of jealousy in his eyes. Fearlessly, he said, "Senior, don't be fooled by Anne's cold goddess facade. She's actually quite promiscuous, played by countless men." I looked at him with pity, then quickly covered Kieran's eyes. The air turned icy. Blood spurted from Rebecca's neck. Her complexion turned ashen instantly. She stared at Jeremy, who held the sword, and struggled to utter a few words. Why, Jeremy didn't even spare her a glance. The other girl, splattered with blood, seemed petrified, unable to move. I didn't say much, just calmly opened my phone to search. Now, we'd better head to a safe zone for shelter. Across the country, a significant number of people with special abilities have established safe zones, where members must complete tasks to receive supplies. I sighed softly. Your Highness the Regent, please take care of us on this journey. It sounded ironic that a high and mighty regent, whose power spread far and wide, would act as our bodyguard. Jeremy didn't show any sign of being offended. He raised his dark eyes, his smile wicked. If protecting you means keeping my Sadie unharmed, then why should I care about those three? What reason do I have to protect them? Me, so toxic. This strategy to sow discord was executed too smoothly, under the threat of death. It would be easy for my roommates with weaker wills to resent me, breeding discord. We all share a dorm, so why should I have such abilities and the protection of a powerful male lead, while they face the constant risk of being abandoned? Such is human nature. Though it's wrong to think this way, it still feels unfair. Rose was okay, but Paige and Kieran's faces had turned pale. I calmly said, Jeremy, why say such things? If my roommates really become envious and cause me a small accident, you would regret it. Jeremy smirked playfully. Isn't removing those with ill intentions from your side a good thing? Creator, my lord, my expression faltered. Don't call me that. Jeremy relished my alarmed look. What's in it for me to protect them too? I thought about it, realizing that aside from my own life, there wasn't much else that could motivate Jeremy to exert effort. I opened the heroine list, tentatively asking, should I summon Sadie then? Aren't all male leads supposed to want to be with the heroine? Jeremy pointed nonchalantly to the desolate scene below our dorm, where the door of a convenience store was violently broken, the ground in disarray, and the walls splattered with dried dark brown bloodstains and chaotic bloody handprints. Zombies wandered aimlessly around. Rotting corpses on the ground swarmed with maggots, emitting a strong stench. Do you want to kill her? If she knew you were missing, she'd be very worried, I said. Besides, before this apocalypse started, this place was just like the world she used to live in. No, Jeremy coldly refused. It's too dangerous here. My hand paused on the heroine list, my eyes catching a symbol like a message icon under Sadie's avatar. I clicked on it, astonished to find that I could actually type. I was shocked. The symbol meant that it was possible to communicate across time and space. You sent a message to the female protagonist in my writing. I took the opportunity when Jeremy was not paying attention to organize my thoughts and sent a text message to Sadie. The negotiations broke down, and Jeremy completely stopped mentioning any benefits. My three roommates and I scoured the campus convenience store and were surprised to find a very hidden warehouse still stocked with a lot of food. Rose and I moved the food out. Jeremy frowned but lent a hand. Paige and Kieran took some essential daily supplies and clothing. We found a car and loaded everything into the trunk, using the GPS. As the only one who could drive, I headed towards the safe zone. Along the way, we encountered a burly man who wanted to hijack the car, a middle-aged woman who morally blackmailed us for food, a fragile young girl who wanted us to give up a seat for her, an old woman who faked a fall to extort us, and a young couple who insisted on squeezing in. With the apocalypse upon us, we encountered all kinds of bizarre people. Rose gave a forced smile. Compared to this bunch of fools, that crazy regent seems utterly normal. Paige and Kieran strongly agreed. At this moment, the regent was nonchalantly wiping his long sword. At his feet lay the bodies of several strong men. Their faces still held the terror of their final moments. All were dispatched with a single sword strike. Yet another group, unaware of their impending doom, tried to hijack the car. Despite days of relentless travel, the regent showed no signs of fatigue. Instead, like a child who had stumbled into a new world, his eyes shone brightly as he admired the world overrun by zombies. But soon, his smile faded, because I had summoned Sadie. She had clearly seen my message in another world, was very worried about Jeremy, and asked me to summon her. I intended to do just that. Although Jeremy had helped us out of a big trouble, his intent to kill was too strong. I'm no saint. Some people didn't deserve death, yet he had decapitated them with a single strike. I really feared he might lose his sanity. I knew my limits. Only the heroine Sadie could truly restrain him. Upon seeing his queen, Jeremy was stunned. Sadie, Jeremy. Sadie was strikingly beautiful, with skin like jade, clear eyes, and red lips. Her long black hair was styled into an immortal's bun, adorned with a silver hairpin. She wore a moon-white brocade long dress covered by a light blue cape, which fluttered in the wind as if the girl herself might be carried away. Her embroidered shoes were stained with bright red, and the girl looked down. The ground was littered with bodies and blood, creating a stark contrast with the stunningly beautiful girl standing among them. Sadie, Jeremy's expression changed. The lazy and indifferent smile disappeared from his face, and he grew tense. It seemed he didn't want the girl to see him killing. This was also why I initially didn't want to summon the heroine. Aside from a very few heroines I've written with darker traits, most are kind-hearted, gentle girls, though some are portrayed as strong-willed. But they are from ancient and modern times, just ordinary people in the face of natural disasters. But looking at this shattered apocalyptic world, with the virus rampant, zombies everywhere, and humanity lost, was I summoning them to send them to their deaths? Jeremy, you're being willful again. The girl sighed softly. If it hadn't come to find me, would I have never seen you again in this lifetime? Jeremy looked at her. Silent, Kieran's mouth dropped open, and, is this the protagonist? Sadie, from your book The Cannon Fodder Queen Consort of the Regency King, Paige exclaimed, your protagonist is simply too beautiful, she makes us look like beggars begging on the street. Rose glanced at herself and her roommate, covered in dirt, and then at the pristine protagonist, and sighed deeply. Miss Gu. I nodded politely. The Cannon Fodder Queen Consort of the Regency King is a redemption story, mainly about Sadie. A kind and independent college student who travels to a fictional dynasty, she pulls the tragic and powerful Regency King out of the mire of hatred and destruction, culminating in a happily ever after ending. I'm sorry for summoning you here. I apologize sincerely. It's okay. After all, you're the one who created me, Sadie replied with a pursed lip smile. Perhaps I should even call you Mom. I endured Jeremy's murderous gaze and shamelessly accepted the title. Daughters are indeed better. Looking at Jeremy, this rebellious son, he really could drive one to heartache. When Sadie saw several zombie and human corpses around, the stench of blood filling her nostrils, her face showed no discomfort. Instead, she furrowed her brows in concern. Has the modern world really become like this? I never thought the apocalyptic movies I watched would become reality, I explained. The modern world here has turned out this way. But it wasn't like this before you traveled through time, Sadie said wistfully. I hope my family in the modern world is safe and sound. I smiled. They're more than fine. I even wrote a side story about you and Jeremy going back to the present to meet your parents. Because of the unique nature of my abilities, I haven't found a way to send you back to your world yet. For now, you'll have to bear with it. I've nearly worn out the ability panel. But still haven't found any information on how to send them back to their own world. We can only take things one step at a time. Sadie, you know how to drive, right? I've been driving these past few days and I'm damn near exhausted. I had set up Sadie's character. Although she appears demure, she used to race cars before her time travel. Driving a regular car should be no problem for her. Sadie blinked. Yes, then you drive. We need to head to a safe zone. Just follow the navigation, I said. My three roommates didn't want to sit with Jeremy, squishing themselves in the backseat, so Jeremy took the passenger seat. Now that the couple was reunited, I was more than happy to let Sadie take over. Her eyes lit up immediately. After so long in the ancient times, she hadn't driven in ages. Eager to get behind the wheel, she took the driver's seat. I settled into the backseat, after days of intense focus. I was extremely tired and soon felt sleepy. My roommates knew I was exhausted and didn't disturb me. Help, help. A few people, disheveled and fearful, shouted, Is there anyone? Save us. My roommates and I are no saints. In previous encounters like this, we usually ignored such pleas. In this apocalyptic world, managing to protect ourselves was already a challenge, let alone sparing any extra compassion, especially since our vehicle had no room to spare. Even the usually naive Kieran had hardened his heart during such times. Between our own people and strangers, the priority was clear. Sadie frowned but made no move to stop. She had no intention of pulling over either. When those people saw our vehicle, their faces lit up with joy and they ran towards us, banging on the doors, shouting to let them in. Due to previous experiences, to prevent them from trying to squeeze through the windows, we had already closed most of them early on. Only a small gap remained. No. Jeremy's previously distracted demeanor suddenly turned serious. My expression changed as well. With my supernatural abilities, my senses were far sharper than those of an ordinary person. Ahead, a horde of unidentified creatures was rapidly approaching. I blurted out, Zombie horde. The others' faces also turned ugly. There was no doubt that this zombie horde had been drawn here by these people. Without hesitation, Sadie immediately turned the car around. Seeing that we had no intention of opening the doors for them, the men grew desperate and quickly pulled out tools from their pockets. Bang! A hammer shattered my car window, leaving it webbed with cracks. Jeremy immediately opened his window, his eyes dark as night. The man pressing against his door breathed rapidly and excitedly. There are zombies ahead. Hurry up and let me in, quick. But his excitement quickly froze. He collapsed. A leaf was stuck in his throat. The rest of the group jumped in shock, their faces pale and terrified as they stared at the handsome yet ruthless men in ancient robes. Sadie had already calmly reoriented the car and, stepping on the accelerator, we sped away. We hadn't even had a chance to catch our breath when the car suddenly stopped. Sadie glanced at the dashboard, and even she, usually so composed, couldn't help but exclaim, We're out of gas. Strange noises faintly reached us from up ahead. I had a bad feeling. Wait. There's another zombie horde in front too, Rose cursed loudly. Damn it. But there weren't many zombies when we drove through here earlier. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and forced myself to calm down. This is a densely populated town. The zombies are mutated and numerous. When luck is against you, even drinking water can get stuck in your teeth. Zombies ahead, zombies behind. With so many zombies, it was no time to rely on Jeremy. I hadn't forgotten the reminder on my ability panel. Note, the main characters are also human. They can get hungry, hurt, and die. The zombies were incredibly fast. The shapes of the zombies ahead were gradually becoming visible. Behind us, the zombies' roars grew louder. I opened the male lead list, passing over the modern and ancient leads, my eyes landing on a cultivator from another realm. Rose seemed to anticipate my choice, blocking my hand and gritting her teeth. Are you choosing Joshua? Paige and Kieran, Sadie, aware of my ability, quickly asked, Joshua is another male lead you created. I nodded solemnly, a bitter smile on my face. Yes, Rose was almost amused by my frustration. Sister Goo, this male lead you created is as crazy as the one next to you. He's a demon emperor in the cultivation world. In the story, he almost destroyed 3 realms for the female lead. Summoning him might indeed eliminate the zombies, but our lives would be just as uncertain. Under the pressure of a great cultivator from the cultivation realm, and wouldn't even have time to explain the situation before we might be mistakenly killed. Sadie, I took a deep breath. If we don't summon him, our chance of survival is less than 1%. If the car had fuel, we might still try to break out, but the car was out of gas, and it had also been damaged during the drive. The destructive power of the zombies was formidable, and it wouldn't hold up for long. Rose was speechless. Jeremy remained extremely calm. He can't kill and others. He opened his palm to reveal a scabbed wound. Sadie's expression was complex as she also opened her palm, showing a similar wound. Before I was summoned by in, this wound suddenly appeared on my hand. I silently opened my palm, matching the length and depth. That's not all. The pain, which should have been bearable, somehow felt as if someone had poured salt water on the wound, making it hurt even more, as Sadie spoke. Her face contorted. Rose, who had poured a bottle of alcohol on my hand, observed, What is this? Shared injury, shared pain. Can this ability really work like this? As the zombies behind us closed in, I hesitated no longer. I'll get out and summon help. You guys stay in the car. I opened the car door, stepped out, and pressed the summon button near Joshua. The sky, previously clear, quickly clouded over, and a terrifying force descended. The zombies in 2 groups exploded into a mist of purple-red blood, and suddenly, a figure appeared in midair, dressed in red with jet-black hair. He had a face that could turn the divine upside down, marked by a seductive crimson dot on his forehead and eyes that shimmered with a strange, demonic light. His face and aura were unmistakably those of a male protagonist and a demonic emperor, however. Blood slowly trickled from the corner of his mouth, and he grimaced as if his organs were shifting painfully. Joshua was puzzled. Since becoming the demonic emperor, he had seldom suffered such severe injuries. The reason, of course, was that under his indiscriminate aura of suppression, I had become an innocent victim. The empathetic connection typically shared between protagonists was now fully activated. Looking around, Joshua realized he had somehow landed in a strange world devoid of spiritual energy, a world that felt ominously bleak and foreboding. He soon spotted me, kneeling in pain, and swiftly descended, grabbing and choking me. The intense feeling of suffocation was not only felt by me but by Joshua as well. Who are you? I trembled under his murderous gaze. If you don't want to choke yourself to death, please let go of your hand. Joshua sneered, regarding me as if I were dead, and carelessly threw me aside. My knees and not yet healed hands were scraped by the rough stones, and blood oozed out rapidly, causing intense pain. Jeremy and Sadie were probably suffering too. Oh, it wasn't just them. All the protagonists I had written about were likely in discomfort. Despite my visible pain, Joshua's expression remained unchanged. Weakly, I said, Joshua, I suggest you treat me less harshly, as the injuries I sustain are also felt by Phoebe. Phoebe, the female protagonist in Joshua's world and his lover, also felt the acute pain, which caused a change in Joshua's expression. He recalled the mysterious wounds that had appeared on his and his wife's palms, along with the bone-deep pain that had made even his strong-willed wife tear up. Without probing how he had arrived in this world or how a strange woman knew his and his wife's names, he gripped my wrist and noticed the scars on my hand, emotions swirling in his eyes. A domineering power flowed into my body, healing my internal and external injuries. Joshua's eyes darkened. Did you, an insignificant creature, bring me here? I thought to myself, you're the insignificant one, and so is your entire family. I just came to ask for your help, I replied, gesturing towards the zombies that had been reduced to nothing but blood mist. Given that my physical condition and life were apparently linked to his, Joshua showed considerable patience. After hearing my explanation, his face changed colors dramatically, a mix of emotions that eventually led him to laugh out of sheer frustration. You claim you created me and Phoebe, so, all the disasters that befell Phoebe were your doing. I was speechless. It was just a novel. How was I supposed to know that the worlds I wrote about would come to life? Thinking of the other narratives I'd written, where protagonists suffered physically and emotionally. I realized I might indeed deserve a grim fate. Feeling guilty, I admitted, I truly didn't know that the novels I wrote would actually manifest into real worlds. Despite probably wanting to tear me apart, Joshua restrained himself since our lives and sensations were interconnected. Not only did he have to endure, but he also had to become my bodyguard. Otherwise, if I, as the author, die, they're all doomed. After learning about the cooldown period of my special powers, Lord Demon Emperor said with a stern face, "In 3 days, you must summon Phoebe. Phoebe is different from Sadie. The world of cultivation is much more perilous, and Phoebe, having been treated harshly by my stepmother in the original plot, is quite fragile. Currently, she's being nourished by the Demon Emperor with heavenly treasures to strengthen her spirit." I nodded hurriedly. We searched for a long time and finally found a van with enough fuel, after transferring the supplies. I took over driving. Joshua, being at a high level, could teleport instantly, but did I have the face to ask him for that? No, I did not. Strictly speaking, the world of cultivation is also an ancient one, albeit different from a purely ancient era because here, one can cultivate. Joshua found this technology, which didn't require spiritual energy to operate, quite novel. It's tough being your protagonists, I said after asking the Demon Emperor to heal a few roommates. Paige sighed. Jeremy and Sadie are bleeding more than we ever did. I remained silent. Jeremy looked pale as he covered Sadie with a blanket. He wished he could bear all her pain, but due to empathy, he could only watch helplessly as his queen grimaced in pain. Although he had anticipated this, he still felt a strong urge to kill Joshua. Such a cold and gloomy gaze could not be ignored by Joshua, just as he was about to teach this mortal a lesson. He realized that his actions were being nullified by an invisible force. He had been warned by the heavenly Tao of another world. Just as Joshua was the favored son of fortune in his world, Jeremy was similarly favored in another world. That heavenly Tao would not allow its child to be harmed by an otherworldly protagonist. Joshua's eyes shimmered with interest. Interesting. Before long, we encountered an ability user squad for the first time, unlike the ordinary people we had met before. These were genuine ability users. Leave the van and the women, take the others for hard labor. The leader of the ability users had a scarred face that looked fierce and terrifying, but when they saw Jeremy and Joshua, I noticed several members of the squad couldn't help but stare, swallowing their saliva. I was puzzled. One of the ability users, who didn't take interest in men, his eyes fell on our 4 roommates and Sadie. A flash of amazement followed by lascivious and sinister intent. His thick malice enveloping like a swamp. "Boss, these ladies are quite beautiful. Give them to us, brothers. We haven't tasted such city women in a long time." Ah, the ability users were caught off guard. The eyes of the sleazy-looking ability user burst into blood. "It seems your offer is not very appealing," Jeremy said, playing with a dart in his hand, his expression cold, seeing their comrade injured. The other ability users' expressions turned fierce, and they threw out their abilities recklessly. This was the first real-life ability user melee I had witnessed. Ice spikes, earth spikes, lightning, vines. The colorful abilities dazzled me, although Jeremy had no abilities. As someone who had climbed his way up to a regent position from a pile of corpses, his speed, strength, and martial prowess need no mention. This ability user squad seemed to be made up of lower-tier ability users, and several were slain by a sword before they could use their next ability. Kieran's mouth hung open. "Wow, so powerful." Joshua chuckled. "Is this what you call ability users? They're not even comparable to the foundation building stage in my world." We were speechless. After all the ability users were killed, I noticed the corrosive ability that had hit Jeremy's arm, which he hadn't managed to dodge, and it was spreading. Sadie's face changed. Jeremy frowned, asked me for a lighter, and heated a dagger over the fire. Without any anesthesia, he gruesomely dug out the necrotic flesh from his arm, then he disinfected and bandaged it, his actions as proficient as if he had done it 100 times before. Tears fell from Sadie's eyes out of heartache. Paige and her friends were startled by the scene before them, instinctively hiding behind me as they gasped. "The male leads in your story are really ruthless," I shrugged. "Well, they've been on battlefields. The injuries they've endured are far worse than this." 14. After a lot of hurrying, we finally reached the safe zone. I forgot to mention, I had summoned Phoebe too. As soon as she appeared, she tried to snuggle up to me, saying that I smelled like her mother, which was very comforting and warm. I just twitched the corner of my mouth. The Emperor of Demons was visibly frustrated, then took Phoebe away, warning me to keep my distance. The guards at the safe zone cast doubtful glances at the two pairs of male and female leads, whose modern outfits looked completely out of place, especially Joshua, in his flowing red attire and a face that could awe the heavens, his eyes a bloody hue and a prominent mark on his forehead, exuded an incredible presence. The guard felt as if he was looking into a sea of blood and mountains of bones. Hearing the wails of countless ghosts, it was more terrifying and despairing than facing zombies at the apocalypse. He was on the verge of a mental breakdown. I just remained silent. Phoebe tugged at his sleeve. Joshua, stop messing around. Joshua scoffed lightly, shifting his gaze away. Who could blame him when the people of this world were so fragile? The guard collapsed to the ground, his face stricken with horror. I sighed and disclosed my special ability, though naturally I didn't reveal its weaknesses. Upon hearing this, the guards twitched, summoning the protagonists from one's own novels. What an odd ability, that one, the guard stuttered. I crisply explained, that man in the black robe, he's the Regent King from one of my historical novels, ahem, the demon emperor of the cultivator world. The guards looked puzzled. Both guards appeared quite young and probably read novels themselves. They knew that a main character couldn't just be anybody. They quickly reported our group. The head of the safe zone rushed over upon hearing the situation. His name was Mingji, a psychic. I had assumed the person in charge here would be a burly middle-aged man covered in scars, but to my surprise, he was quite young, looking barely in his 20s, dressed in a black shirt. He had a tall and lean stature. His face was strikingly handsome, as if he embodied all the world's elegance, with dark eyes tinted with a hint of coldness and aloofness. The girls next to me clearly looked dazzled. Paige whispered, if I didn't know he was the head of the safe zone, I'd think he was another male lead you summoned. I replied, thanks, but not every handsome guy is a protagonist from my novels. Jeremy narrowed his eyes slightly and was the first to act, his sword flashing like a rainbow. The young man was quick to dodge and picked up a long bamboo stick from the ground to defend himself. The two of them began to fight. The guards were dumbfounded. Someone can actually fight our boss to a standstill without using any special abilities. Sadie also looked surprised. Looks like Jeremy has met his match. After showing himself and even fighting, Mingji coldly ordered the staff to settle us in, then disappeared. The head of the safe zone was busy. We understood that. I had thought that Jeremy and Joshua, being high-ranking figures, would not be willing to be subordinate in this strange world. Yet, they ended up doing tasks and fighting zombies like most other people with abilities, exchanging resources, and essentially starting their retirement early. Not only was I surprised, even the female leads were astonished. Jeremy said, Sadie, even a Regent King gets tired after so many years. It's nice to relax a bit in this strange world, not to mention, in this modern society. The variety in your menus is far richer than in our time. Sadie, what would you like to eat? I will cook it for you tomorrow, said the king. Joshua added, Jeremy is absolutely right. Phoebe, this blue crystal core isn't very bright anymore. How about I extract a red one from a zombie's head for you tomorrow? I was speechless. Jeremy is only in his 20s, and here's this ancient demon emperor, thousands of years old, still addressing him as a young brother, watching the two male protagonists make a mess of things. I didn't even know what to say, originally. Everyone in the base thought these two men were just mediocre in strength. However, it wasn't long before the safe zone was attacked by external psychics wanting to seize our territory. We had experienced such attacks before, but ever since Marshall took charge, the casualties among the psychics in the safe zone were far less severe, this time, with Jeremy and Marshall working together, one using mental barriers and the other slicing through enemies like vegetables. There were no casualties in the safe zone. Then, several waves of zombies besieged the city, but there was no need for Marshall and Jeremy to intervene. Joshua, standing lazily on the city wall, snapped his fingers, and the swarming zombies exploded one by one, turning into clouds of purple-black mist. He smiled and asked, Phoebe, do you like the fireworks? Phoebe nodded innocently. They're beautiful. Joshua is amazing. Everyone at the base was speechless. Afterward, the way everyone in the safe zone looked at us changed, and no one dared to provoke us any longer. One morning, I suddenly heard several people screaming. When I went outside, I saw not just one person but many lying on the ground, clutching their exposed skin and writhing in pain. Their flesh was beginning to rot. However, none of them turned into zombies, Jeremy said gravely. They've been poisoned. Rose was horrified. What about us? I calmly said. We haven't eaten anything today. Besides, everything that was delivered to us was checked by Joshua, just in case someone tried to poison me and then everyone would be doomed. Marshall looked grim as several healers hesitated. Looking around and holding back their words, he demanded, what exactly is going on with them? A psychic whispered, Boss, they've been cursed with a poison. There's a type of psychic whose ability involves poison, and curse poison is one of the types they can wield. There's no antidote for this poison. I looked at Joshua, hoping the powerful demon emperor could save them. Joshua replied, I am not an alchemist. I don't know how to treat illnesses, though I do have several life-saving detoxifying pills. They're too potent for humans, even for evolved psychics. Taking them forcibly would only lead to their bodies exploding. I was at a loss. The people managed by Marshall in the safe zone were friendly, and bullying was rare. The psychics encouraged each other, hoping for the apocalypse to end. I couldn't just watch them die. I approached them, took a deep breath, and said to Marshall, Mr. Ming, I have an idea. Although anxious, Marshall responded politely, I'm all ears. I opened the list of main characters and whispered, Mr. Ming, you know about my psychic ability, right? In one of my novels, I created a character who is the master of the rejuvenating valley, unmatched in both medicine and poison. Capable of curing any toxin, I'm thinking of summoning him. Perhaps he could find a solution, Rose murmured. Are you referring to that capricious genius doctor who only heals the dead and not the living? The others were silent. Marshall's eyes softened slightly. It's worth a try. If you can cure them, I would be immensely grateful. I nodded. He stood up, a look of disdain still on his face, and said, Such amateur poison. It's laughable. Everyone was speechless. From his sleeve, Kieran swiftly launched several silver needles, accurately piercing the major acupoints on the poisoned individual's head. The person's eyes widened, and he suddenly vomited a mouthful of black blood. Kieran moved quickly, treating the other poisoned individuals with his silver needles as well, and they too began to expel the dark poison from their bodies. He took out a few pills then instructed me calmly, dissolve the medicine in water and have them drink it, then, remove the necrotic flesh. And the poison will be neutralized, Rose exclaimed. That was incredibly fast, wasn't it? Truly worthy of a protagonist who excels in both medicine and poisons. Seeing the people stop struggling and even some beginning to stand up, I was moved to tears. Kieran, you truly are my hero. Kieran, soon, the people in the safe zone learned that a miraculous healer, capable of reviving the dead and mending bones, had arrived at the base. It was said that he was the main character from a novel. The poisoner, furious that his abilities were neutralized so swiftly, came in the dead of night seeking revenge. The next morning, several dazed logistics department members with special abilities dragged a few bloodied corpses, dead from their wounds, out of Kieran's room. Kieran found it odd. I've also seen bodies being dragged out of Jeremy's room several times. How come I've never seen Joshua being attacked? I patted her head affectionately. Because anyone daring to attack Joshua would have been turned into a mist of blood, nourishing the earth. Don't forget, they're from a cultivation world, where there are countless techniques that can leave you without a corpse. After this incident, the three male leads finally realized I wasn't just a fragile being. If it weren't for my telepathy, I would have died hundreds of times over, so, to allow me to protect myself. Since they can't be around me 247. Jeremy began teaching me martial arts, Joshua said. Forget it, this place is hardly fit for cultivating. He then gave me a bunch of offensive and defensive magical instruments, some described in the text and some not, directly teaching me how to use them. Kieran taught me medical and poison skills. Yes, I had to learn medicine. QAQ, seeing me exhausted every day, busier than during my college entrance exams. My three roommates couldn't help but laugh mischievously. I never expected my powers to go out of control one day. My three roommates were speechless and choked up. Jeremy and Joshua looked on with peculiar expressions. Sadie and Phoebe were stunned. The base's superpowered individuals looked bewildered. Marshall was full of question marks. Suddenly, a group of men and women dressed differently appeared at the base. A CEO in a suit was pressing a delicate girl who looked like a little rabbit, his tone angry. Woman, if you run again, I'll break your legs. A school bully in a white shirt, with reddened eyes, hugged a girl's waist hoarsely. Don't cry, I'd give my life for you. A Yandera boy buried his face in a beautiful girl's chest, his voice soft but the content horrifying. Sister, they look at you with such dirty eyes. Shall I gouge them out for you? A cold emperor in a dark dragon robe, standing next to a stunningly beautiful woman wearing a phoenix crown. My empire, naturally. I share with the queen. Who are you all? A group of novel protagonists suddenly felt something was amiss and quickly turned around, facing all of us at the base. Protagonists, us, silence is tonight's Cambridge, and you've played out every trope in the book, Rose said softly. Their every word is drenched in the essence of novels. Me, Joshua, enjoying the chaos, yo, and all your fictional sons and daughters are here. Me, Paige rubbed her chin and handed me a tube, and a quick interview. What does it feel like to meet your male and female leads in person? Me, what do you think I feel? I'm so embarrassed I wish I could burrow into a huge Barbie castle, and then scream, twist, crawl darkly, wriggle, roll, crawl violently, twist in spasms, hiss, move sinisterly, crawl, split, go ashore, twist in spasms, move, walk twistedly, attack indiscriminately. A person can die but can't suffer social death. The three male leads I had summoned earlier had already worn me out. And now this huge group has appeared. Are they trying to kill me? Faced with this chaotic crowd, initially I spoke nicely, thinking after all they are my dear sons and daughters, I should be gentle. However, they all had strong personalities and were disobedient. Their eyes conveyed arrogance and indifference. I had previously made the 3 pairs of actual protagonists from the front swallow a numbing pill prepared by Kieran, after eating. Their bodies could block pain sensation. Then I fiercely cut a deep, bone-visible wound on my arm, blood dripping steadily. On the arms of the group of male and female leads, wounds suddenly appeared in the same spot, and a few of the female leads had tears in their eyes from the pain. Dozens of murderous intents from the male leads fell on me. I ignored them and scoffed coldly. You'd better behave. Any harm I suffer will be inflicted on you as well. If I die, you won't survive either. You might not care about yourselves, but you surely care about your loved ones, right? Really fed up with a bunch of rebellious children, the male leads were furious but helpless, and they had to accept the arrangements made by the superpowered individuals. Occasionally, one must still perform hard labor due to the skills they possess. 23 years later, thanks to the cooperation between the government and the military, all zombies have now been eradicated, and the Research Institute has developed a drug that resists the zombie virus. Everything seems to be moving in a positive direction. Those with supernatural abilities are surprised to find that their powers are gradually weakening, and even disappearing. People are beginning to establish a new social order. I looked down and noticed a new button that had appeared on the supernatural ability panel for the male and female protagonists, labeled Send Back to Original World. Below it, a line of small text read, when the protagonists return to their own world, all connections with the author will be severed, and their world and lives will no longer be threatened by the author's physical condition or life. Over the 3 years, relationships had formed between the male protagonists and the male protagonists, and between the female protagonists and the female protagonists. Some male protagonists held high positions, like Regent Jeremy and Emperor Lincoln, who often played chess together, discussing the art of rulership, checks and balances in the court, and military strategies. Demon Emperor Joshua and Ghost King Levi enjoyed fighting in midair, showcasing a myriad of martial arts techniques. It was even easier for the female protagonists to become friends. They cooked together, crafted small animals, gardened, and the modern high school girls discussed physics Olympiads. The adult female protagonists engaged in lively discussions about life and dreams, and sometimes complained about their husbands. Despite their reluctance, their original worlds were indeed more suitable for them. When I pressed the send button, watching each protagonist disappear, a sense of melancholy emerged within me. Jeremy, it's finally over. I no longer have to stay in this godforsaken place. And remember to study those dozen or so manuals of swordsmanship and boxing. Joshua, I can finally go back to my demon palace and sleep well with Phoebe. Kieran agreed. I can return to the Valley of Divine Medicine and focus on my medical skills. And you must read and master all the medical and poison books I left for you. Me, Sadie playfully winked at me. And I wish you smooth sailing in life ahead, Serena. And goodbye, she thought for a moment and then added simply, I hope you get rich soon. Phoebe hugged me and nuzzled against me. And I wish you happiness. I smiled. I will be. The 3 female protagonists, holding hands with their respective male protagonists, said, then, until we meet again. Finally, the figures of the 6 individuals also slowly disappeared. 21. My 3 roommates and I also returned to normal life. On a sunny afternoon, holding my laptop and enjoying a milk tea, I typed out these words. He is the foremost war god of the celestial realm, endowed with supreme magical power, yet he is brave and righteous, always ready to draw his sword to aid those in need, committed to protecting the common people.